Non, là, je l'ai réglé. C'était pas mal juste ça, le problème. Euh, Bon, le reveal stream, il est à 3 heures, ça veut dire. J'en ai de temps, là. Ah, il a plus parti comme du monde. Il veut pas. Ok, ferme ça, tiens. Bon, il a même pas marché l'autre affaire. Ouais, là, il est parti. On va ouvrir ça parce que j'ai besoin d'avoir mon autre chat. J'ai besoin d'avoir l'autre Twitch. Genre. Bon, j'attends après. Là, t'avais dit. Top leur affaire pis tout, ça. Seigneur, c'est de la merde. Bon, j'ai hâte à voir pas t'avais dit l'annoncement, là, moi. Dans pas long en plus. Ça va être intéressant. Monter le son un peu. There we go. va pas prendre lui encore. Ah. L'annoncement va partir, si on va partir de l'annoncement, je vais commencer à le mettre. Bon, je commence à me préparer à l'écouter. Tabarnak pour mal. Black Hole. J'ai bien hâte de voir ce qu'on parle. Je sais que c'est entre 13 d'avril, j'assume, là, d'après t'avais dit 2, là. Annoncement. Uploading égale XP. J'ai hâte. D'abord, je switch le jeu, je vais comme prendre mon temps à un peu jouer aussi. Après, je switch à Patavezit 2 pour regarder l'annoncement. On va regarder ça ensemble. On va voir si ça vaut la peine. J'espère la patch à vaut la peine, parce que sinon ça serait trop long en tabarnak, man. Ouais, donnez-moi une boîte 3 stockettes là, ça me ferait du bien en tabarnage. Ça arrivera pas ça là. J'ai level. 300. Ah, je suis encore 200 level en haut, man. Ah ouais, c'était juste ça. Ouais. J'avais besoin d'utiliser un autre plugin pour se mettre sur YouTube. C'est colon, man. C'est pas le monde sont ready pour Patavezit 2 annoncement. C'est intéressant. Si l'annoncement est pas bon tard, ça va être pas pire. J'espère. Ouais, cette place-là est tellement weird, man. Je voulais aller là parce que il n'y avait rien d'important ici. Il y a du jade pis du fucking rubis que je peux pas rendre. C'est comme tabarnak. Je peux monter des ressources que je peux pas avoir, man. Ça m'écoeure un petit peu pour ça. Tu peux sauter comme du monde, bonhomme? Merci. Ah, Joel est là. C'est what? Chose de Joel. 372. Je continue de monter de level. En mining, là, je parle pour le vrai level. Là. Présentement, je suis max level. Là. Je suis rendu des paragons. Je sais pas s'ils appellent des paragons dans le jeu. Là. De grandes bottes, là. Bon, il reste environ un an et demi avec l'annoncement. Comment ça switcher quand ça va popper, là. Ah, un bloating. Bloating égale XP. J'ai tellement de runes, mais j'ai même pas de temps pour mettre des sockets, man. C'est ça ma chance, man. Void. On approche de L, mais c'est pas en L que je veux aller. Je vais aller dans l'autre hack avant. Pathway to the Soul. Waiting room. Il y a tellement des noms fuckés là, ici, là. Verge of Insanity. Baby. Ow. Balls of the void, wall of agony, wall of agony, wall of agony, aïe aïe. Goodbye.
It was over before a raindrop had the chance to hit the ground.
So. Non, ça veut dire... C'est ça là, ça c'est lui, non. C'est pas mon affaire. Je peux faire un L puis essayer, mais... entends-tu vraiment? Non. Gate of Fire. Je sais pas si ça c'est tuable, Cody, ça. Non. Y'a pas de quoi ici pantoute. Non, faut juste que je trouve la sortie du test, c'est tout. Eh, on avait... Bon, ben, attendre d'en au-dessus tous les mobs là. Bon, save. 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 Non. J'ai pas fait de le dire plusieurs fois. Bon, vitalité, énergie. Et ça, c'est dextérité. Dextérité, c'est quand même bon. No joke, là. Je sais pas si c'est worth de faire le Val là. Ou ça serait mieux d'aller en L tout de suite. Parce que le Val là, c'est comme le L quasiment. D'une certaine manière. Bon, Naga t'aime pas, je vais aller là. Le plus de shit que je peux tuer, là, ça va être meilleur. Pour plus de chances de loot. Throwing avec 3 sockets. Ça fonctionne pour moi, right? Yeah. AdSense of Constraint, c'est pas beaucoup. Deux sauts, pas juste un, parce que c'était un petit peu trop dangereux de faire juste un saut là. Bon, bon, les 3 sockets. Non. 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 Bon, 3 sockets, ça serait lui. Puis c'est pas l'arme. Throwing. C'est throwing. C'est 4 Fanatinesis. Minus Poison, ça c'est. Ah. On va le tirer. Qui l'aime all. Z sur le Z. J'ai pas ça, man. Yeah, j'ai même pas ça, je peux même pas y faire de toute façon. J'ai vraiment besoin juste de bots. Pour socket, si possible. Et pour l'armure, faudrait que je cherche. As-tu des meilleures armures? Non. Pas tant de ça. Elle est vraiment meilleure. Hein? Y a rien. Bon, ça veut dire, je pense que j'ai rien d'autre vraiment, là. Yeah. C'est toutes des unités que j'ai besoin, là. Faut que je sais c'est quoi que j'ai besoin, là. Bon, les Hunted sont tank. Quand même drôle que je me promène avec une arme level 11 puis je suis capable de tuer de même. Je sais qui voir. Ouais, pas de voir. Genre juste pour Alres. Non. Lui, quand même. Ouais, le Valkyrie est bon. C'est vrai. Le Valkyrie, ça a l'air tellement bon. Le chant, ça serait pas mal un Ace. Valkyrie, ça serait genre le best. Oh. J'ai juste 300. Ben, si j'ai pas besoin de jouer, puis je vais le ramasser, là. Nofida. Virer tout ça ici, là. Bloating, ça c'est égal XP. Les bloating drop des orbes, puis les orbes c'est des gros XP. Ah, je l'ai pas besoin. Oh. Car vous devez adhérer. Tabarnak, man. Il manque un peu de damage, là. C'est ça que je le remarque, là. Ça, qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire, man? Je veux des Fallen Berserker, là. Rien de bon. Là, oui. Des mots drink. Ah, je sens que j'avais pas besoin d'aller là. Rain of Ida. Je viens juste d'arriver de là. Vas-y, il y a une autre zone ici. 300. You. Aller là-bas, ça doit être par là. Non. J'ai bien fait de venir chercher pareil. Vas-y, ça va te par là-bas. Oh my god, man. Ça fait ça, là. Level. 8. Get of voilà. Enter for the cave. Bon, on va aller à la zone là. Moi, je fais toutes les fucking zones, là, parce que ça vaut à peine. Ok, si je drop, c'est quoi le jeu, là. Bon, des fucking hunted qui sont la merde à tuer. Ça faut finir ta... Neta... Juste... Oh. On est sur de notre approche. Uh-huh. Ça, je l'avais pas fait dans mon... en normal. Ok, on peut rien faire. Nigga. On a an axe. On a a throwing weapon. Yeah, on peut rien faire avec lui. Ah, tu peux pas rien faire avec ce là. Là, c'est toi que je joue présentement, là. 408, je suis pas encore un level pour m'en du rubis. Bon, bloating, ça vaut la peine de le tuer. XP. Même si l'XP est moins importante présentement. Wow. Rien. Go, j'en ai besoin en plus. Il y a tellement de rubis, mais je peux même pas le miner le rubis. Camp Obsoul. Elheim, Arachnide. Faut que je trouve les araignées. Oh, je cherche le memento. Ça. Nope. J'aime bien la mienne elle donne Orez. Ouais, ma tête à. Bon, c'est quoi aujourd'hui, ma tête, là, j'ai mal. J'ai plus d'itinéraire en plus, puis j'ai still mal. Ça c'est bon. Faut que je trouve des fucking araignées de merde. Non, ouais. Il y en a une de plus. Il y a une autre. Il y a une autre. There we go. Les araignées, après je te donne. Ah, double XP là. Je vais juste rester loin parce que mon saut il voulait pas marcher comme ça. Bon, sont les araignées là, please. c'est ça que je cherche présentement, des araignées, là. On en a une de plus. Il en manque 5. Il en manque 4, là. Oh, il en manque. Un unique. 10 sur le reste, Deathly Blow, attaque rating. Elle donne à plus 1 hors skill, ça c'est meilleur. Mais elle est bonne, là. Si vous perdez le plus 1 hors skill, ça fait mal. Je pense que c'est pas mal mon dommage, là. Le plus de plus skill que j'ai, là. Et on saute comme du monde. Bon, attendez un peu. Non, c'est vrai, je peux pas pause le jeu. Bon, 2 secondes, je vais vous le mettre, là. There we go. Celui de Patavise 2 vient juste de commencer, là. Maintenant, on est juste en attente. Oh, une Vex. Helheim. Ça 121, il m'en manque encore. Niflheim. Oh, fais attention. On décolle sur cela. C'est pas grand chose ici. Un autre go. 430, il manque genre 70 levels. Désolé. Stocké. Il va rester genre 5 minutes, je vais commencer à switcher, je pense. Au countdown. Pas bon ça. Valley of the Unchained. Rat. 1400, c'est pas meilleur. Bone of Alheim. Hello, bitch. Hein? Ok, mais faites one. Mais faites comme légitimement one tap. J'ai mangé à 24 000 de dégâts in the face. What the fuck? Ah, faut retourner. J'aille là-bas, moi. Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh my god, for real? Faut vraiment que je bosse les boys. Ok.
Come to your master's aid.
Okay, that's so fucking weird, man. Ça doit être un bug là, tu sais, Shadin il fuck de même là.
No, this is not the end. My power is at.
Oh, hello toi. Bon, ben, t'as une kill, tiens. Ok, il a pas donné un autre loot. Ça serait un petit peu colon. Bon, ben. Ouais. Ouais, j'ai un nomade maintenant ici. Bon, ça veut dire ça c'est fini. Un L. L. Cette grande puce. Même ça. Use besluit van zijn even. Oh. Oh, je suis rendu un L. Bon, faut que je trouve des fucking socket shit là. Pas dans L que des fois les zones ils buffent. Yeah, j'ai besoin de damage là, oui. Mon shield est très bon là, pour ce que j'ai là, pour là. Moi c'est vraiment un renoir là, j'ai vraiment besoin de faire de bottes là. Pour socket. J'ai besoin de bottes, please. Pour y mettre, ça va faire du bien. Maman, maman, maman. Bon, présentement, je suis pas chanceux sur drop là, pendant tout. Là. Mais tu t'es obligé d'essayer tout le temps ma lock pour essayer de faire des sockets? Quelque chose, ça serait pas à savoir, là. Devrais-tu vraiment essayer tout le temps de faire des sockets? C'est oui, là. C'est un petit peu pénible, là. Je rush à tuer des mobs, man. Je sais pas si je devrais être en L là, moi. Ou je devrais être encore en Nightmare, là, pour l'instant. Ouais, je pense que je devrais être encore en Nightmare. Présentement. Je fais pas assez de dégâts en L. Ça va être trop long. Yeah. Et elle va plus Nightmare, ça te met, hein. Bon, j'ai des chances d'avoir c'est quoi de jouer, là, en plus, c'est de toute façon. Sentinelle d'Osh. Pas deux sockets. Pas chanceux pas en tout sur tes bots, man. L'annoncement va être intéressant, man. J'ai hâte. Quand l'annoncement va partir, je vais aller chill là aussi. Ça veut dire. Bon. Bon, c'est elle, puis Imperfect. 4 sockets, ta gueule! C'est genre 3 sockets que je joue, man. Vas-y, comment ça marche un socket dans le jeu, là? Faut-tu mettre quelque chose pour comme bloquer le socket? Non, parce que je pense pas qu'il y a aucun... Ok, lui c'est un physical. Sa violence c'est quand même bon pareil. Bon, lui que je voudrais c'est un walk. Non, c'est Grim Walker. Mais Grim Walker, je peux pas l'avoir. Comment ça marche les sockets dans ce jeu-là? Et si je veux faire un Renoir, comment ça fonctionne? Unité exactement dans socket, exact sequence. C'est tout. Ça veut dire c'est ça l'affaire. Ça veut dire que ces bottes-là sont pas bonnes. Ça part si je ferais ces bottes-là, là. Non, ça veut dire ils sont cheap. Ah, celui-là. Bon, c'est où faudrait que je farm pour des items à socket, man. Ça, je me demande. Bon, ici, c'est pas comme mauvais, là, à farmer, là. Pas encore rendu à moi. Ça monte tranquillement, là. Il manque 40 levels. Je vais pouvoir faire du rubis. Ok, je peux pas sauter là, c'est intéressant. C'est où la place que je vais pogner pour descendre ici, man? Je devrais-tu aller en R? Je me demande vraiment, là. Devrais-tu aller en R? J'ai de la misère à tuer en R, ça veut dire je sais pas si c'est une bonne idée, man. Ah, c'est vrai, je vais checker les choses avant. Les drops sont pas actifs. J'ai dû d'y penser parce qu'il y a des drops. C'est. Pas attractifs. Ils sont sûrement juste pas attractifs. Ah ouais? Ok, lui il est en a une, man. Bon, lui est dead. Maman. Maman. Le temple, en plus de all skill, ok. Ça met. Fait qu'il y a rien d'intéressant. Bon, de toute façon, faut que je ramasse assez de gold avant. Aller en L, je pense. Mais enquête! C'est énervant! Un petit chat qui veut mon gars. Et vous verrez mon gars, je commence à m'énerver. J'ai pas pris un ads. Je ferai pas grand chose là pour farmer. Bon, c'est à veille d'être fini là. Fucking up et soft shit là, il m'enlève ma mana. Je le tue puis il m'enlève ma mana. Maman. Un bloating, lui il va me donner l'XP. Puis il est stock là, le tabarnak en plus. Oh non, tu m'enlèveras pas ma mana, mon os, fucker. There we go. Jump. There we go. And clean. Bon, j'ai-tu looté quelque chose? Fallait pas. Non. C'est que je pensais. Oh, level. Vitalité. Dextérité. Ouais, intelligence ici, ça vaut quand même la peine d'aller chercher. Sinon, ça va te monter en montée, là, la place. Inferno, c'est genre la dernière difficulté de ce jeu-là. Flotter. Un autre bloating. Ow. Bon, j'essaie de trouver du gold parce que c'est ça que j'ai besoin présentement là. Je vais prendre du gold pour arriver level 500 mining. 500 mining, il veut pas pogner du rubis. Mais ça vaut pas la peine là. Non. Ça j'ai dit. Internal, ben taper. C'est pas la musique de Bethesda 2 est bonne, man. Allez, bien, sort ça. Pas bon. Un autre bloating. Travail. Ok, j'ai comme cancellé ça parce que je voulais pas me faire tuer. 194. Même pas gros. Belle belt. Bon, là, je peux aller m'emmener du rubis. Bon, là, c'est essayer de trouver comme des sockets, là. fucking pogné des bottes, genre fucking 4 sockets. Là, c'était 3 sockets que je cherchais comme de bottes. Je suis pas chanceux. Je suis pas chanceux sur les fucking sockets items pantoute, man. Oui, les sockets sont carrément trop hauts pour pas d'allure, là. Ouais, mon dégât fait tellement dur. Je peux pas rien faire, là. Je peux pas l'améliorer, mon dégât, là. J'ai besoin de runes pis des sockets items, j'en drop pas. Je suis pas chanceux. Ouais, je drop pas de socket item soon, dans ma... Yeah, ça fait dur mon affaire, là. Comme, je drop fuck all, là. C'est comme. Je sais pas c'est quoi qui arrive, là, man. Vraiment pas, je sais pas c'est eux qui arrivent. Là, je clé ben trop lentement, là. C'est comme c'est même pas faisable, là. Je suis pas capable de trouver du socket item. Ok, moi je vais switcher le jeu. Peut-être même pas switcher le jeu, mais je vais juste me préparer pour aller regarder Patavisit 2. Oh. Je fais ça now. Hey man. Je vais aller pisser avant, là. Je reviens, ça c'est pas long. Ok, title and shit, c'est à changer, là, ça c'est pas long. Das ist super long.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Rogers, Game Director on Path of Exile 2. Welcome
Whoa.
to GGG Live. Well, it's been a little over 3 months since we launched Early Access, so it's about time for our first major content update. Today, we're going to show you an exclusive reveal of Path of Exile 2, Dawn of the Hunt, which launches on April 4th. Twitch drops are enabled on today's live stream, so make sure you follow the instructions below in order to claim your Executioner's Guillotine finisher effect. Now in today's stream, we're going to take you on a deep dive into the new Dawn of the Hunt update. We'll cover a new class, 5 new Ascendancy classes, and huge expansions on character systems like unique items
Juste
and
un new
support
classe. Bâtard.
gems, a bunch of new encounters, and lots of other content. We're going to finish up today with a live Q&A session where Ziggy D will ask Path of Exile 2's game directors, myself and Mark, your questions from Twitch chat. Now we have a lot to cover today, so let's get started with a trailer for Path of Exile 2, Dawn of the Hunt.
We as Mary are guided by the Spirit. It provides prey, shelter, even love. But for me, one day, all that were changed. The Spirit, it showed me something. Something forbidden. And to defend all I loved, I used it. I lost everything that day. But fate weren't finished with me yet. I'll right the wrongs I've done. I'll do what I must, no matter the cost. I will hear the Spirit once more.
I shall bathe in your blood.
Now, as you can see, in Dawn of the Hunt, we're introducing the first new class since early access to PoE2, the Huntress. The Huntress is a spear-wielding Asmeri warrior. Born into a society with strict traditions, she was exiled from her homeland after using the power of a skill gem to defend her village. As a dexterous spear user, she specializes in both melee and ranged combat, dashing into and out of battle. Spears have extended range and a short dash, but unlike other melee weapons, you can also throw them. In order to make a hybrid ranged and melee character work, we had to do a lot of thinking about ways to make it fun to both enter and exit melee range. The first skill you will get as a Huntress is Whirling Slash. As well as striking in a circle around you, this skill creates a whirlwind that blinds your enemies. Leaving the whirlwind will make it explode. The more Whirling Slashes used, the bigger the whirlwind, and the bigger the explosion.
Got a boom.
Once you're out of there, you'll want to follow up with something ranged. Whip your spear around to shoot twisters towards your foes. These twisters bounce off walls and can hit enemies multiple times. You can also throw twisters inside a whirlwind to shoot out extra tornadoes that do way more damage. In her offhand, the Huntress will usually want to hold a buckler, which allows you to do a new skill, parry. While holding down parry, your character will counterattack any incoming attack from monsters near you, stunning them. In addition, the monsters will take extra attack damage from your follow-up strike.
Yeah.
Some specific skills are designed to be used after a parry and have extra effects. Disengage is a skill that does a quick jump back, damaging enemies in front of you, and it can be used to interrupt other actions, like dodge roll. If you use it against a parried enemy though, it causes an explosion and gives you a frenzy charge. Just be careful. If you parry too much, you're going to get stunned and possibly killed. You can combine this combo with Whirling Slash. Slash, parry, disengage, and you'll get an explosion from the disengage and the Whirling Slash. The Huntress also has a variety of elemental spear throw attacks. You could use Lightning Spear to bounce lightning between your foes. Or you could throw explosive spears into the ground. These spears take a while to detonate, but when they do, they'll incinerate anyone caught in the blast. All spear throws on the Huntress can also be empowered by frenzy charges. For example, explosive spears will do an even larger explosion and leave fire on the ground. And these empowered versions can activate even more combos. Using Whirling Slash over ground fire will suck it into the whirlwind, adding fire to the explosion. Using twisters inside a fire whirlwind will shoot out fire tornadoes as well. And you can do similar combos with ice and lightning too.
Cool.
Now a key aspect of hunting is exhausting your foes by causing blood loss. This skill is Rake, which dashes towards your target and unleashes a deadly slash, opening up wounds on your enemy.
That's a Rake.
Follow up with Disengage and watch them bleed out as they run towards you. On the health bar of monsters, you can see how much blood loss the enemy has experienced, and the Huntress has skills to take advantage of this. For example, using Blood Hunt will thrust forward and cause a bloody explosion. The more blood loss, the bigger the explosion. If you want to cause bigger bleeds, try out Rapid Assault. The final hit of this multi-hit combo will stick a spear into your enemy for a big bleed. Now, Explosive Spear and Rapid Assault both result in leaving spears behind, either in the ground or in enemies. But there are other skills that leave spears around too, like Storm Lance, that leaves an electrical spear that arcs towards enemies. But what can you do with all these spears? Detonate them, of course. Thunderous Leap will allow you to jump onto and explode any spears, either in the ground or in your enemies. Now, as well as hunting animals, the Huntress also has the ability to work with them. While fighting any beast, you have the ability to tame it and use it as a companion. You can only have one companion at a time, but it will keep the mods that were on it. Try to find a rare beast with good mods to take full advantage of your ability to tame it.
Oh my god!
Now this is just the beginning of the Huntress. We've really tried to make the hybrid ranged and melee gameplay work for this class by having a huge amount of synergy between ranged and melee options. There are 22 new skills available for the Huntress. By endgame, you'll be slinging hundreds of insanely powerful spears, sending forth spirit animals and summoning the might of Solaris from the sky. But we still haven't talked about ascendancy classes yet. What can the Huntress ascend into? Well, the first ascension class you could choose is the Ritualist. The Ritualist has embraced the darker side of his merry traditions by harnessing the power of animal sacrifice and plague. The Corrupted Life Force skill causes all enemies around you to grow volatile blood boils on their skin. When those enemies are slain, the boils will burst, spreading corrupted blood to all enemies around them. The Ritualist also excels in taking advantage of magical trinkets. The Unfurled Finger skill allows you to equip an additional ring on a finger
that's
around
fucking
your neck.
dumb.
Taking Mystic Attunement increases the bonuses of all the rings and amulets you have equipped. Now this is one of my favorites. As the Whispers Ask grants you a new skill, Ritual Sacrifice. Use the skill on the corpses of slain rare monsters to absorb the power in their blood, to give you one of their modifiers for a short time. Specialize further into Ritualistic Sacrifice with As the Whispers Demand, which allows you to perform that skill on yourself instead of a corpse. Cut your own hand, sacrificing some of your own blood to empower yourself. The Amazon Ascension is for those looking to hunt more than just beasts. Trained as an elite guard to the most important Asmeri elders, the Amazon will use more traditional fighting techniques mastered to perfection. The Predatory Instinct skill will cause you to reveal weaknesses in the defenses of rare and unique enemies, causing you to deal more damage. You can see those weak spots represented on their life bar.
Oh, ok. Intéressant.
Using Elemental Infusion, any charges you consume will infuse your weapon with elemental power, causing any projectile attacks to explode on impact. The Critical Strike skill is as simple as it sounds. It takes your excess accuracy and gives it to you as critical strike chance. Additionally, you have skills like Mystic Harvest, which allows your elemental damage to leech life, and Asmeri Brew to be able to use either flask to restore both life and mana.
Huh?
So those are the 2 new ascendancies for the Huntress. But those are not the only ascendancies in Dawn of the Hunt. We've added a new ascension class for 3 of the other existing classes too. First up, for our warriors out there, we have the Smith of Kitava.
Oh, Smith of Kitava.
Warrior is a blacksmith in origin, taught by his father Renly. With this ascension, you can take your smithing skills to new heights by embracing power from the insatiable one himself, Kitava. Smiths of Kitava are master blacksmiths and have the ability to forge their weapon, quite literally. Using the Against the Anvil notable skill, you can enhance your weapon with fiery destruction before any battle. After doing so, your attacks will release explosions on hit for maximum devastation. You can also use the power of Kitava to summon an animated copy of your weapon to fight alongside you. A great blacksmith can do more than just forging their weapon though. Their armor can be enhanced too. Now you might think this ascendancy class tree looks a little abnormal, and you're right. There's a lot of notable skills all disconnected at the bottom there. By taking this point here, which is free to assign, your character is unable to equip body armors with mods of any kind. So your body armor must be normal. Sounds like a downside, right? Except now in true blacksmith fashion, you get to craft your own body armor by taking those disconnected notables with your class.
Okay.
If you want your body armor to grant life, take this notable. If you want resistances, take this one. There's so many choices. Think of it like you're crafting your own body armor, just in a more literal sense. Now, let's move on to those who prefer the reassuring feel of a crossbow in their hands, the Mercenary. Alongside the existing Ascension classes, the Gemling Legionnaire and the Witch Hunter, you can now play as the Tactician. The Tactician is a former Blackguard elite. Free from the duties of a Blackguard, he is able to use his training to decimate the monsters of Rayclast and earn a healthy income doing so. This training comes in the form of various skills like Suppressing Fire, which causes all projectiles to pin enemies. When combined with the Right Where We Want Them notable, your pin not only stops your enemies from moving, but stops them from performing actions too, similar to Freeze. With this training, the Tactician also works well cooperatively. Using the Whoever Pays Best notable, you can place multiple banners at once. The Watch How We Do It skill gives a portion of your weapon's damage to your allies as well. If that isn't enough, you can also command your army of off-screen archers to unleash hell and carpet an entire area with arrows. Finally, Witch players will be able to join their legions by becoming undead themselves.
Oh my god.
We're introducing the Lich Ascension class. The Lich is a master of chaos and curses and can sacrifice her life to enhance her energy shield. The Crystalline Phylactery skill allows you to nominate a jewel in which to contain part of your soul, massively increasing its power. There's just one downside to splitting your soul this way though. If you have no energy shield, your mana costs will shoot up. The Necromantic Conduit skill causes you and allies in your presence to have unholy might, granting extra damage as chaos damage. Rupture the Soul makes enemies you curse explode with chaos damage when slain. Dominion over Flesh allows you to apply an additional curse. It's safe to say you'll be the true master of the occult by choosing the Lich class. So Dawn of the Hunt has the Huntress and 5 new Ascension classes, but it doesn't end there. Let's take a look at some of the new skills we've added. Now you may remember we've previously talked about the Raise Spectre skill. It's finally complete, and it will be made available in the upcoming expansion. It can be found in the occult skills on the skill gem crafting panel. Raise Spectre is a skill that allows you to trap the soul of almost any monster in the game, which you can then summon in the skill panel. Spectres cost spirit and will revive automatically if they die, but the spirit cost varies based on the power of the monster. You could summon an army of weaker monsters, or a few of the more powerful monsters. You can combine them with your existing skeleton minions, or summon exclusively specters. It's all up to you and how you want to customize your army of the undead. Given that there are hundreds upon hundreds of monster variants in Path of Exile 2, it's safe to say you'll be experimenting with this one for a while. We look forward to seeing which monsters serve you best. Now let's move on to our next skill. Since we've been talking about summoning undead so much, let's have a change of pace and summon something a little more alive. In Dawn of the Hunt, we're adding the Summon Rower skill. Summon your friendly rower to aid you in combat as a minion. You can also mount your rower in combat at any time, allowing you to move at full speed even while shooting arrows or throwing spears.
About that.
Be wary though, if you take too much damage while riding your mount, you can be knocked off and get overwhelmed. It's worth keeping an eye on your stagger bar, as falling off the mount can mean almost certain death.
Bye.
On the topic of new ways to enhance your character, let's talk about support gems. Support gems are used to modify your skill gems in meaningful and interesting ways. Currently, we feel that a lot of builds have insufficient options here. To alleviate this, we're adding over 100 new support gems. Hema crystals will enable a new kind of bleed build, turning the damage over time you would have done into explosive Vile crystals.
What the fuck? Yeah.
Alignment is a support gem for bow attacks, which can reward skilled players with good positional skills. Caltrops will allow you to litter the battlefield with hazards, slowing your foes as you fling spears through their ranks. But there's plenty more for every playstyle, such as Enormity,
Huh? Okay.
Unsteady Tempo, Profanity, Retaliate,
Boom.
Syzygy. Yep, that's a real word.
What the fuck?
And many more. Now we've talked about a new class, new ascendancy classes, new skills, and new support gems. But let's not forget about the core of a true action RPG, the items. To start with, let's talk about uniques.
Dat is een
We're adding
repertoire,
over
weer.
100 new unique items. This time, we've made sure to add uniques with a focus on mid and endgame tiers to make sure there are more exciting items to find for higher level characters. Let's look at some examples. Embrace your inner devil with Chernobog's Pillar. It grants you a large amount of fire damage based on your block chance. The Coming Calamity allows you to become a true master of the elements, granting you all 3 elemental herald skills.
What
without
the
costing
fuck?
any spirit. At the same time, it penalizes enemy resistances. Wastegate is a belt useful for builds using a single resource like Blood Magic or Archmage builds. With this belt, you can use 2 life flasks or 2 mana flasks. It's up to you.
Okay.
Now, we could go through these all day, but we'll leave most of them for you to discover. Suffice to say, though, we want there to be way more cool things to find. Over time, our goal is to add a unique to every single base item type at a minimum, so that you can chance any base in the game. Now, given that we have the Huntress, we have a set of unique spears from early game all the way through the end game as well. One example is Scyther's Spear, which combines bleed and fire in a powerful way. It allows your ignites to be aggravated, dealing substantially more damage. We're also introducing a suite of unique bucklers with some interesting parry mechanics.
Fini par
Elgar's
les
Heart, for
range.
example, allows you to parry projectiles
The
from
fuck?
any distance. And we're also adding our first unique charms. Bayra's Anguish will not only protect you from ignite, but will also emit a devastating fire nova whenever you do get ignited. In sum, there's just a ton of new uniques to find. We can't wait to see the weird and broken builds that come out of it. Now, we also want to talk about crafting options. In each major update during early access, we'll be continuing to add and improve the options here. We have various new crafting tools that have been added as rewards to many of the different types of new content that we're adding. But for now, I just want to mention the changes to runes. Runes add commonly available mods, but since they only have one tier, flat damage mods tend to get outclassed by in-game. So we've changed runes to have multiple tiers, allowing you to get higher tier mods than before. Our plan is to significantly expand the number of more specialized mods for crafting using socketables as we add new content over time. And the first new set of those comes from what we're talking about next. In Dawn of the Hunt, we're adding Asmarian Wisps, which can be found throughout both the campaign and the endgame. The Asmari spirit has made itself present in Rayclast, and it appears to be trying to warn, or maybe prepare us for the coming darkness. You will first encounter a manifestation of it in the Grellwood in Act 1, where you'll meet Delwyn, an Asmari hunter who is trying to find out what exactly is causing the spirit to behave this way. As you approach the wisp, it will flee, leading you past monsters. Any monsters that comes into contact
Oh.
with are infused with it, making them more powerful.
Ok,
Each
ça c'est
spirit
ton
is
mount.
associated with a specific revered animal within Asmeri culture.
Nice. T'es
This
bien
one is
fait.
a wisp of the Great Bear and grants enemies extra life and stun. The wisp moves faster the closer you are, and as you move away, they slow down to wait for you. But if you get too far away for too long, they'll dissipate and return to the woods. As you continue to chase the wisp, it will find and possess a rare or unique monster, granting it a new powerful ability. Because this was a wisp of the Great Bear, this monster now also has increased life and stun. But on top of that, it will periodically summon a large spectral bear that slams with wild fury. If you're able to defeat this foe, you will be rewarded. For each monster that was infused and killed along the way, the rewards will be increased. Each wisp has its own mechanics. The Wisp of the Winter Owl is a primal wisp that causes enemies to deal extra cold damage, gain energy shield, and release wind vortices on death. When infusing a monster, they will call down large tornadoes to protect their host. The Wisp of the Wild Cat is a vivid wisp that causes affected monsters to deal more critical strikes and become more evasive. When it infuses a monster, it will summon a barrage of feline spirits that will attempt to tear you limb from limb. If you're lucky, you may even find sacred wisps that can do some pretty crazy things to the monsters they influence. Like the Wisp of the Cunning Fox, which turns normal monsters into magics, magic monsters into rares, and rare monsters into
Oh
actual
my
monsters.
god.
Asmerian wisps can drop a new set of socketable items that allow you to craft a wide range of interesting new mods onto your items. Each one may only be used on a specific item slot. As mentioned, the Asmerian wisps can be encountered throughout the game, but there's also a new endgame map called the Asmeri Ranges, a mountain village where the Asmeri once lived, now overrun with corrupt monsters. This map always has multiple Asmerian wisps in it, and familiar, yet not quite the same boss fight. Asmerian wisps can also be further modified by the endgame atlas tree as well, and by tablets. But I'm not going to be the one talking about those things. In order to cover all the new content in endgame, I'm going to hand things over to Mark.
Hi, I'm Mark Roberts, Game Director on Path of Exile 2. There's a ton to talk about with the endgame today, so let's dig right in. Path of Exile 2's early access began with a brand new endgame, and it was clear that it needed a lot of work. After absorbing your feedback, we're ready to make some epic changes. The first thing is, we just need a lot more content. In Dawn of the Hunt, we have made sure to focus on increasing the sheer number of interesting and different encounters you will randomly stumble into as you explore the endgame. And the second goal is to smoothen the progression through maps and reduce the amount of annoying busy work. To start with, let's talk about the new interesting stuff to find. Well, the most obvious thing to add are new maps. As well as the Asmeri Ranges that Jonathan mentioned earlier, Dawn of the Hunt also contains 7 other new maps, all with their own custom encounters. Let's start with this one.
The Feral Megaliths map starts off in the wild Ezomite forests. As you progress through the forest, you will find mysterious rune-carved stones that, when touched, surge with energy. After activating all the stones, you can find a grand henge, where all the energy is coalescing. You can then start an encounter. The area darkens, a storm moves in, and a concentration of energy summons a dangerous boss. You must fight and defeat the boss to get its rewards. Once you have defeated it, summon another. And another. And another. And another. You have 10 total waves of boss fights, which
Oh my god.
If you manage to defeat them, you get full boss rewards, but also opportunities to get new runes. These can only be obtained from this map. The Fractured Lake contains a surreal waterscape with fractured mirror-like objects. As you move around the map, the terrain itself elevates from below, creating the ground you walk on. In this unique map, all the rare monsters are mirrored, so you're always fighting 2 of the same rare at the same time, which can prove quite difficult. If you manage to overcome that challenge and make it to the end of the map, you'll be presented with a broken mirror, a powerful altar-like object that contains an item within it. The item contained within is a new base type, either an amulet or a ring, that can be crafted to have additional prefixes or suffixes at the cost of the other. The last unique map we'll show today is one based around the essence mechanic. You enter a crystalline cavern, and you will find a powerful map boss imprisoned in the center. It is surrounded by many rare monsters, also imprisoned in essences. By freeing and defeating the rare monsters, the essence they held will be upgraded to a greater essence and be added to the imprisoned map boss. How brave are you? How many essences will you add to the boss? Overdo it, and you might lose everything. Underdo it, and you might regret it. It's your choice. Speaking of essences, alongside visual improvements, you're now able to apply Varlorbs to corrupt the essences, with a range of unpredictable outcomes. It could increase the number of essences,
Valor maintenant, pas d'essence
reroll
pour.
all the essences to the same type, or even upgrade the essences to greater essences. What if they're already greater essences? Well, it can upgrade those too. We have 4 new corrupted essences.
Okay.
Essence of Hysteria, Delirium, Horror, and Insanity.
Each corrupted essence has its own interesting combat mechanics. For example, the essence of Insanity causes you to question even your own mind, as monsters split into shadowy clones, and you must locate the real one before a devastating icy explosion freezes everything around it.
Huh.
Each of these has their own crafting outcomes. The essence of Insanity can be applied to a belt. It adds a mod that will ensure the next Varlorb used on the belt will guarantee adding 2 enchantments.
The bot.
It's
Yeah.
worth noting all the essences in the unique map can also be corrupted too,
Vale.
if you're willing to risk it. It's worth noting we have also added 10 extra Atlas passive points you can earn by completing 5 different unique maps.
Uh-huh.
Now, new maps are just the beginning. We had a goal where we wanted to make sure you were constantly finding exciting new content, and that it could be lurking around any corner. So, we have added a bunch of new things that you could stumble into in any map you run.
On your travels, you will sometimes encounter rogue exiles.
Oh.
Others like you who have been exiled and are openly hostile. Some are malicious, some are mad, while others are simply fiends for loot. They will challenge you, a fight to the death. They use the same skills available to players, and even the same items. They aren't just dressed up in those items, they're actually using them. It's going to feel like a true player versus player situation.
Oh my god.
Of course, if you are able to slay these exiles, those items will all drop on the ground. So if you encounter an exile using a powerful or valuable unique item, which you can see displayed under their life bar, you want to be damn sure you kill them. Because if they kill you and your party, they'll portal out, taking their items with them. Every fight will feel completely different depending on the items they come equipped with. These exiles are much smarter than your regular monster. They have capabilities to dodge roll, avoid your abilities with smart
Oh my
pathfinding,
god, ok, ils sont bien plus
smart
intelligents des
targeting,
randonneurs
and
normales.
much more action-packed gameplay. Fortunately, they're like you and they're not super durable. Unless, of course, they're wearing uniques like Calm's Heart, in which case, expect a longer battle. There are 12 different rogue exiles you can find, each with their own skills and personalities. Some may insult you, while others may admire your honor in combat.
Another encounter you might stumble onto in Dawn of the Hunt are one of 4 new unique strongboxes.
Strongboxes are chests with modifiers. When you try to open them, they activate traps and spawn waves of monsters that you must defeat to access the loot. Let's take a look at 2 of the new unique boxes that are harder to find
What the fuck
and
is
behave
that?
just a little bit differently. The Ogham's Legacy Strongbox has a corpse splayed out in front of the rune-carved stone. Upon interacting with the stone, you activate Forbidden Ezomite magic, which revives the monster as a powerful rare. The Strongbox comes with a modifier which determines how many times it will revive that rare.
Revive
Each
5
time you defeat
times.
the monstrosity, the Strongbox revives it again, adding an extra modifier to the monster.
Tabarnak.
With each resurrection, it becomes more difficult, but also more rewarding.
Yeah.
This Strongbox is infused with thaumaturgy from ancient File technology. Eshell's Torment
Aberration
has a
of
powerful
Chaos.
artifact inside,
Unique
and is guarded by chaos
enchantement.
itself. Defeating the monsters will grant you a unique item, with a specific corrupted outcome. You'll have to find the other 2 for yourself to see what they do.
Now, let's talk about the introduction to the endgame. Upon starting the endgame, Doriani tasks you with cleansing corruption to help restore the land. However, in practice, the quest objective just sent you on a grind to clear 15 maps. We wanted to make the quest to unlock your Atlas passives much more interesting.
Now,
No.
Doriani is tasking you with a more specific objective. On the Atlas, you will find areas of corruption caused by the beast. In the center of each one, you will find a corrupted nexus, the source of the affliction. In the areas leading up to the nexus, you will notice that corruption spills out from slain enemies and amalgamates into powerful monsters. Corrupted maps existed on the Atlas before, but we've done significant work on improving these monsters. We've also done a full pass on the modifiers on these maps to make them more interesting and more rewarding. Once you reach the Nexus, you will have a new task: cleanse the source of corruption. When you defeat the last rare in those maps, they will spawn one of 3 terrifying bosses, amalgamations of corruption itself. After defeating that boss, Doriani will come and cleanse the corruption for good. As the remains of the boss are purged of corruption, it coalesces into raw crystallized power, which you can use to gain points for your Atlas passive skill tree, the upgrade system that allows you to add and enhance content in your maps. We didn't stop there though. When you complete a corrupted nexus, all of the remaining surrounding corrupted maps will become cleansed maps. Cleansed maps also have new monsters,
With the energy.
a new boss,
New
and
boss.
their own set of modifiers and rewards, including finding fracturing orbs by slaying cleansed enemies. These orbs can be used in crafting of a rare item to cause one of its modifiers to become fractured. A fractured modifier is one that cannot be modified by any means. You are able to freely modify the item, ensuring the fractured modifier will never change. If you get the right item with the right mod, it can prove to be a very powerful crafting base indeed. You must now choose. Do you complete all the corrupted maps and then the Nexus? Or maybe you beeline to the Nexus, complete it, and do all the remaining maps cleansed. Both have rewards to entice you and challenges to assess.
Fucking yeah, man.
Now, let's have a talk about towers. One thing we've had a lot of feedback on is the busy work around running towers and managing your tablets. The first change we've made here is that we have reduced the number of towers drastically, so there are now 1/3 as many as before, but we've made them much more powerful. To start with, tablets now inherently add twice as many mechanics, but that's not all. Running higher tier maps and towers now increases the number of mechanics applied by tablets. By tier 15, the bonuses double, allowing a single tablet to now add 4 times as many mechanics as before. So, we're running far fewer towers, dealing with fewer tablets, and affecting even more maps than before. But because there are fewer towers overlapping with each other, you won't get as many opportunities to stack different tablets. In order to solve this, we've made it so that each tower can consume up to 3 tablets at once. You always get 1 slot on completing the tower, but if you can complete a tower with more mods on the waystone, you can unlock a 2nd or 3rd slot. Overall, this allows for even more juicing from towers, while drastically reducing the amount of busy work you have to do. On top of that, towers are much more interesting maps because they can now spawn with all mechanics, including bosses. Each tower map has a new boss. Let's take a look at a couple here. The boss fight of the Alpine Ridge map has 2 powerful witches contesting for territory. One witch has an affinity for ice, the other fire. Who will win? Hopefully neither. The boss of the Sinking Spire map is a remnant of the Val, charged with the lightning. It uses a full suite of lightning abilities, but be careful. If any of them hit the surrounding constructs, they will power up. Another thing that we've seen a lot of feedback about is sustaining waystones. As we looked into it, we realized that the people who couldn't sustain waystones were dying a lot more than we had expected. And that made us realize something. During the campaign, the expectation is that you can die multiple times in order to learn how to overcome challenges. You are able to learn how the monsters behave, adapt to their skills, and eventually overcome them. But as soon as you get to the end game, you are effectively no longer allowed to die if you want to sustain waystones. By the time you are getting towards the end of endgame, we want you to have to be careful not to die. But it certainly shouldn't be that we have such a sudden shift as you run your first maps.
The first change we're making is you can now respawn and return to a map if you die. Continuing from where you left off.
Intéressant, hein? Ils ont
When
mis
you
6 portails
start
des
the
premières
in-game,
maps.
you get up to 6 total attempts per map. As you add more modifiers to a waystone, the number of respawns goes down. This means that as you get to the point that you're running every waystone as a rare, you will have to be more careful. In parties, everyone gets to respawn that number of times. But we still think it's important that you can kill a boss in one go. In order to allow that to happen, we've made a change so that once you start the boss fight, it changes over to the same respawning system we use for pinnacle bosses. This means that the map owner can choose to respawn everyone at the same time. Another complaint we've seen a lot of is players not wanting to do the pinnacle content because of the experience penalty from dying. A change we've made here is that all pinnacle content now no longer grants experience, but also no longer removes experience on death either. Dawn of the Hunt also brings the first batch of Twilight Order reliquary keys from the early access supporter packs. These keys contain items selected by our supporters. They can contain any unique item found in Path of Exile 2. If the selected item is a pinnacle boss drop, then only special keys dropped by this content will be able to provide these items. For example, Hand of Wisdom in action can only come from a key dropped by Zesht. We're also making a change that allows pinnacle boss uniques to drop at any difficulty. Rarer uniques will be rarer at lower difficulties, but still possible to find.
Nice.
This applies to the drop chances for the reliquary keys from this content as well. We spoke about towers and tablets earlier, but we have also added a suite of unique tablets. Each of these adds crazy interactions to the maps influenced by it. For example, this unique tablet allows you to run any map in a tower's radius without requiring connections, which can be quite useful for jumping gaps and traveling around your allies. And this tablet causes all runic monsters spawned during expedition encounters to be duplicated, and weakens all expedition monsters that emerge from the ground. The Atlas tree has also been expanded, and you can find many of the new mechanics there, and improvements to existing ones too. Now through this livestream we have mentioned quite a few new crafting options that we've added. New runes, corrupted essences, fractured mobs and jewelry crafting bases. But we did have just one more crafting system to talk about. Recombination. Expedition was the only in-game mechanic that was lacking a crafting system, so that needed to change. Recombination is a mechanic that might be familiar to some players. It allows you to merge two items together, hoping to get the best elements of each on a single new item. This new crafting bench will be unlocked as you complete your first expedition, and requires artifacts found during expeditions to fuel it. The rarer the mods on the item you are combining, the more expensive the cost. That wraps up all the major in-game changes we're talking about today. With all the system changes and new content, we can't wait to get in there, start blasting maps, and obliterating monsters. There is one more thing we wanted to clarify before we move on, which is that all the content we've talked about today will be made available in the existing early access leagues, so you can play your existing characters. However, there will be new leagues made for those who wish to start in a fresh economy. It is recommended to start over and get the full new experience in the Dawn of the Hunt leagues. For all our existing early access players, we're really looking forward to joining you playing in this new update. For those who don't already have access and are interested in playing Path of Exile 2, Dawn of the Hunt, you are able to at any time purchase an early access supporter pack at www.pathofexile2.com. Additionally, the Paladin and Penance supporter packs are now available to purchase in Path of Exile 2 and contain 6 microtransactions each and the full pack's face value in points. All the microtransactions contained within these packs are purely cosmetic and do not affect your character's power or progression in any way. Thank you so much for your ongoing support. We're just about to start the Q&A with Ziggy D. With release at the end of next week, our community team will be posting crucial information you'll need for the release. Keep an eye on the news. On release weekend, we expect to launch the new mystery box and many new microtransactions, including Path of Exile 2's first alternate skill effects. Thanks for joining us today and checking out our latest developments. We're looking forward to playing the Huntress, trying new builds, and exploring the new endgame next week. We'll begin the Q&A shortly, so please get your questions ready.
Ouais, c'était la misère.
Good morning, Exiles, and welcome
On n'entend pas parler.
a portion of today after a very exciting reveal with lots and lots in it, exceeding my expectations, particularly in crafting. But on that note, we're joined here by Jonathan and Mark to talk about all that we've seen today and more in the future of Path of Exile 2. And you had an update about the recombination.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Yeah, so we actually last night had a bit of a design session and realized that we weren't actually fully happy with the way that recombination worked. We
Volume!
made quite a big change to it, which wasn't reflected in that video, obviously, which is basically that we sort of wanted to give a bit more control to the player over how recombination works. And we also kind of weren't really happy about the fact that recombinators is something that like kind of matters a lot for really, really ultra endgame players. But it wasn't something that was really mattering a lot for like the people who effectively got access to the feature at the start. So we've actually changed it now so that the way it works is that you pick which mods you want on the each item from each item, and then it gives
Okay,
you
c'est comme le volume, please.
So if you pick just like one from one and one from the other, then the chance is
Oh, on n'entend rien.
higher. But if you pick like if you pick 6 mods, it'll become practically impossible. So effectively, like the more you're wanting to design the item, the less of a chance of actually having success. So it means that if you just want to get like a mod, if you want to get an item with like okay these 2 mods that I found off the ground, that's relatively easy. If you want to get an item which has all of them, then very hard. So we think that's a much better design because it means you can kind of use the recombinators actually become something that you can use even from a relatively from the first point you get them, but there's still this kind of end game like like for perfect stuff you might still be able to do it with more. It is kind of balanced though, so that like if you pick literally all 6, then it's going to be like incredibly low to the point of like don't even try that. But like 4 mods might be a good thing to sort of be striving for, that kind of thing, and then exalt the other 2, that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's kind of the new design of that.
Parle dans le bar.
Hopefully that'll be in by the time 02 comes out.
Parle dans le bar, on l'entend pas.
Got a plan for doing that. But yeah, like I think it's a much better design than what we had before for recombinators.
If it's not there for 02, it'll be as
very
soon as it can afterwards.
Oh.
But yeah, spur of the moment, night before the live stream design sessions. But
There we go.
increased player agency and visibility into the success result is just a win. And honestly, took way too long to get to the point of us actually going, this is just straight up better to have observability into that and the freedom of choice. So.
Sure.
Yeah, that's the thing. Recombination definitely felt like something that was both really high end in
Sans
terms of
dessin.
that it was intended for, but also just even understanding it. This seems much more intuitive because
you just pick what you
selecting
want.
the mods you want.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
So it does sound like it's a little bit of a nerf for the very high end of crafting, though.
It might end up being, but I'm not like it sort of depends on how the numbers come out. Like because we only just designed this,
Dang,
we
yeah,
just
man.
work out like exactly how the numbers end up looking. But I mean, look, we have to make sure. Obviously, whenever we're designing any crafting system, we have to be really sure that we're not like screwing over finding stuff on the ground. So you have to sort of have that balance, and that's so that kind of informs everything we do with crafting usually.
One difference here, though, of course, is if the success chance fails, both items are destroyed as opposed to always keeping one.
Yeah.
So
okay.
So it's basically
Whether or not
percent chance for success, and if it fails, item's gone. So
Roughly, what do you think you try to pitch just choosing 2 mods at?
It depends on what mods you're selecting, but I'm kind of thinking kind of like
Non, tu pourquoi on l'entend pas parler, lui?
2 normal mods, that kind of thing. Like for them both, for them both. For if you pick 2, and then but we'll
it kind of depends. Again,
it kind of depends. We'll see how
higher tier mods are rare. And
yeah, exactly. So it sort of
it also the other thing is it's going to now have a fixed cost, so it's not going to
And the idea is like
based on
doing a single expedition should be enough to do a recombination. So you're going to be doing them like relatively often as you're doing expeditions.
So is the part of Expedition where you get to craft with the NPCs still a thing then? Now that you're adding this?
Yeah, I mean, you've still got that whole mechanic, and like, so it's competing for the artifacts.
Yeah.
Between recombination versus buying things from that other way.
So is there some buffs intended for that then? To
Ouais,
more
pourquoi ça,
competitive?
c'est pas fort?
It definitely needs some love in the future, but not at this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like the systems can kind of go hand in hand, where one is giving you items
That's
that you
100%.
can then potentially recombinate.
That is also true. You can use the ingredients of one in the other, or the outcome of one as an ingredient in another,
Cool. We'll talk more about crafting a little bit later on for sure, because there was a lot announced there, which I'm quite excited about. Definitely exceeded my predictions for what you'd be adding in terms of crafting. But firstly, though, just a quick clarification on the league. So there's not going to be a wipe for the new players joining us.
Right.
If you were playing on a character, you can still keep playing on a character. But a lot of long-term Path of Exile players know the importance of playing
Non, pas
on a fresh
banal, ça.
start. And that's also
Right,
really important for you guys as well,
For
right?
sure, yeah. I mean, basically, if we don't have like any character that's come from before, you're just not gonna like, because the balance is so different and because so many things have changed. There's like no point in even listening to feedback for someone who's playing in the old league. Like, it really has to be that you're doing the fresh start, and we're sort of seeing how things go in the new economy. So like, we were really sort of, it was kind of an interesting decision about whether or not we should make it so that all the content is exclusive. Or
Mais
rather,
t'as tout
like,
à voir,
what
tu
amount of content would be
leech.
exclusive to the league versus not. And the issue that we had was that so I mean, like, a league means something in Path of Exile. In order for something to rise to the level of a league, it needs like a certain amount of features. And the original thing we were thinking about doing that way would be the Asmeri and Wisps. But there wasn't quite like the kind of like meta mechanics and stuff with that. So like, we didn't quite rise to the level of feeling like it deserved to be a challenge league. And at the same time, we've also got a lot of new players playing Path of Exile 2, never played Path of Exile before. So we were a little bit like, we kind of were deciding like, okay, should we make them exclusive or not? We sort of decided, you know what, for this one we're not going to. And then what we'll probably try and do is for the next league that we do, we'll actually make it a proper challenge league with like its own exclusive mechanic and so on. But yeah, it's a little bit funny because like, in early access is a bit of a different situation with different, and so yeah, we'll sort of see how this goes anyway. But certainly I would encourage everyone just like, start again on a new character. I think you'll have a much better time because obviously if there's structural changes to the passive tree. It's like if you log in with your character, you're going to have like your tree's going to get reset. You have to do stuff. There's things like that are going to happen that mean that and also just balance changes, right? Like huge numbers of them. So you're going to have a better time playing from the start.
That's it. And speaking of the Huntress then, so we saw initial Huntress quite some time ago now and had some hands-on time with it and things, but I certainly
But
haven't
do
played
it,
that before
Rip.
and played it now recently. The Huntress has changed quite a lot.
Yeah.
So what was the... how hard was it to get a
Mais-
for release? What was kind of the key there?
Il a des specteurs, ça veut dire spectre, c'est genre comme
une
une autre classe à part entière, ça veut dire. On peut
which is why it's
donner
so
du
hard
slack,
to
là.
predict, like, how long a class will take. So like, it changed a lot since the last time we were showing Huntress. And honestly, like, it's like, while there are some skills that you will still see, like, it just plays completely different. And I mean, whenever we're looking at like how we're going to design something like this, it really comes down to like, what is it's the special about the character class? Like, how can we double down on that to make sure it feels different? So with the Huntress, you've obviously got spears as a base type. The key difference between a spear and any other weapon type is that you can both use them at melee and you can also use them at range. You can throw them. And so because of that, we really were just really trying to incentivize everything possible so that you use both of those things. And action RPG players, they generally speaking, the balance can often be such that you only really want to do one thing and do that one thing well. So trying to incentivize the kind of ranged and melee is quite a thing. And I mean, the way we do it effectively is try to make sure that like, there are combo chains where a ranged thing can combo with something that's melee, and a melee thing can combo with something that's ranged, and then also give you good abilities to move between the two states. And so that kind of means that you end up with a very like agile character. Like, you're constantly moving like backwards and forwards and kind of moving around. And I would say that like, given that it's the Dex character, that it's good that it feels that way, that it feels the most agile of all of the melee character classes. That's been a really good one. But I mean, look, there are, in terms of changes, I mean, look, there are just changes all the time. Like, the frenzy charge thing was like relatively late in development. Like, there's like quite a lot of things going on that just meant that the field kept on evolving. And another big one, of course, was parry, which I honestly was very skeptical of working. And Mark, Mark was the one who saved it. Honestly, I was like, you know what? There was like 3 times I think where I was like, you know what? I don't think it's gonna work. And then you were like, okay, I think we're gonna save this.
I was like, give me a week.
Yeah, exactly. And it works completely differently from most games, because in most games, obviously, with parrying, the way that works is that you have to time to push the block button at exactly the right time. But that's just something that just wouldn't work in our combat system, because
Bon, tu laisses juste
you're
parry,
often
pouf!
in packs of monsters. It's just like
Et-
you don't really have the ability to read combat in that way in our game. And at the same time, we need to make something where there's going to be if a single monster in a pack hits you, you need to be able to respond to that with something that's going to you need to be able to respond in a way where you don't just then immediately get hit by a bunch of other stuff.
Yes.
So having it so that the parry, it always parries, but it's then taking advantage of what the parry does to the monster by following up with something that's going to give you an explosion or something like that to kind of deal with the pack. That's something that sort of allows that counter gameplay to work in our game. So you've kind of got 2 primary parry follow-ups. You've got the frenzy charge one, which dashes back, which means that you don't have to worry about the monsters hitting you. And then you've also got the one that there's another one which I don't believe we showed there, which called Fangs of Frost, which does a counter where you attack with ice, which freezes the pack. So it's another way. So in both cases, you've kind of got something that's kind of dealing with the fact that you've got all these monsters around you, and that was kind of the biggest challenge I think that we had with that mechanic.
Yeah, I'll also make note of there was a support gem I found that you can attach to any attack that allows you to follow up parry to generate a frenzy charge too. So it doesn't even have to be the backflip.
Yeah.
You
In
can
that case, there's other.
create your own parry.
Yep, and then of course there's always Sniper's Mark. And there's there's a skill that does give you a guaranteed crit, so that's a potential option as well. Like you've got a few different ways to generate them.
Because parry
Guaranteed crit.
guarantees a light stun.
Yeah.
You always get that small window to actually engage or do a thing before you're under danger again.
And I'll tell you this, I am one of those players who never parry, right? In any game ever, because I can never do it. It's always just so frustrating. So I was very skeptical of that, but it feels really good. You've both managed to make it something that's easy to do, because you can just hold the button down and parry at any time. There's no skill involved in that. But at the same time, you've incentivized making it so that you do want to still try and time it as best you can personally. How have you done that? How have you made it so that you actually still want to kind of play it skillfully?
Well, I mean, ultimately, anytime you're holding down the parry button is when you're not attacking, right?
Exactly.
So you still want to kind of minimize the window, but at the same time, the timing is just not not as bad. But the nice thing as well is that once you do successfully parry, it's very obvious. You get the sound, you get the token on the monster. It's very chunky.
Yeah.
So it means it's very obvious when you're supposed to counterattack. So yeah, I'm very happy with that. I think that it came out really well. And honestly, one of the funny things about it is that it immediately made me realize how bad shields are in comparison, which is why we're also trying to ninja in a change to how shields work at the last minute, which we'll see if it makes it into 020. I was playing around with it last night.
This was 8 p.m. last night.
Yeah, 8 p.m. last night, exactly. I was
messing with this.
Yeah, messing around with it. And I won't talk too much about how that's going to work, but effectively we want to make shields, the shields better as well, and kind of build something into those to make them more interesting. So that's the plan there. We'll see if it makes it for 020.
Yeah, following that kind of similar design space idea of being able to do a bit more with it.
Yeah,
and then
100%.
that feed into other skills and things like that as well.
100%.
There's a lot of room there to play with.
Yeah.
So we talked about Huntress being very, very combo heavy, and she has the deepest combo chains out of anyone so far, exceeding Monk. You've got 3-4 different skills deep of things you can start to synergize together. So how do you balance? How do you make that fun? Firstly, rather than onerous, for example.
Well, I mean, I guess there's a few things. One of them is it just has to be very readable and understandable when, what you can do and when you can do it. And I think the other thing that's really to our advantage here is reusing skills in multiple ways, so you can make a deeper combo chain without requiring you to be using as many skills in order to do it. So the way that Whirling Slash and Tornadoes interact with ground effects and kind of all that stuff sort of means that you're using Whirling Slash multiple times as part of the same combo chain. And that's an idea I think that I'd like to try and explore more, because I think that it is a cool way to kind of extend the combo chain. Yeah, as I said, without sort of getting too many things involved, and makes it a lot cooler. So yeah, I'll think a bit more.
So c'est un skill, mais plus intéressant.
Skills, but yeah, it's worked out really well here.
Yeah, it's a bit of a loose create your own combo system in a way. Obviously there's intended combos, but because it's interacting with something that's fundamental like ground effects. You're able to combo with anything that creates a ground effect. And there's a lot of different ways you can do that. Like I added shocked ground to the backflip skill, or I got a companion pet that had a shocked ground aura.
Nice.
As like that was just there and that was available all the time.
I mean, it's funny as well because it also works on just enemy ground effects, and so sometimes you can just get a damage boost because the rare just happen to be dropping ground fire or something. So that's kind of fun. But it's been it's just a lot of fun to play. You know, the first time I ran into that was actually in the graveyard, where there's these like chests that like pop open with fire, and like I was using tornadoes, and then one of them just randomly turned into a fire tornado, and I'm like, oh, what happened there? Oh, yeah, sweet. It was just like a really cool moment where it just sort of interacted with the environment, which was really fun.
It always feels like you're getting a little bit of something extra for free when you're taking advantage of the enemy effects, or a boss fight that just has burning ground everywhere. It's like sweet. So how do you go about balancing though when you have a class that has deeper combos and kind of somewhat requires you to do a bit more versus a class or a skill or a build that is just bonk?
I mean, you have to ultimately make the combos matter, right? And I think actually that's one of those things that we're trying to really focus on with the balance changes we're doing in Dawn of the Hunt more generally, is making sure that even, like, I think it's the case where some of the combo gameplay kind of degenerates a little bit by end game in a way that, like, I want to make sure it still feels rewarded. And so we were sort of doing various checks, recently about, like as a random example, right? Like, so on the Mercenary, we found that doing, but when you get to endgame, doing armor break, what's it called? The armor piercing that causes
armor piercing bow,
followed with high velocity rounds, is just worse than just using high velocity rounds. And that's like really bad, right? Like we have to make sure that we're improving that stuff. So it's like sometimes you just get these things where like the balance by endgame kind of degenerates in a way that that doesn't support the combo anymore. And so we have to make sure that when we're looking at buffing things, that we're like making sure that when we're doing it, it's to support the fact that using more things is actually a good thing. We're really trying to make sure that we're bringing some of that, improving some of that stuff as well as we're making the balance changes.
So do you have like a baseline there of where like the really simplest build should be, the build that just bonks? Like,
I mean, you mean in terms of damage or in terms of like what it does? You know, I mean, we always want.
I guess the players, able to build that way, but the players have to do a combo.
I mean,
like, for people who don't want
ultimately,
to,
you never have to, right? But it sort of what it means is that you are sacrificing something. And look, the ideal situation is that like,
d'autres affaires, tu fais une affaire,
c'est
plate là.
You want to do combos, right? Like, because you feel rewarded for them. It's like should feel like a fun, like, oh, I can add this. You know, like it's the feeling you should be getting.
Yeah. I think the Huntress is doing that very well. It must have been like extremely hard, because I don't think I've ever seen this like ranged melee combo done well before.
Right. Well, I mean, it does require a lot of discipline, and it means that a lot of skills like end up on the cutting room floor because you try them out and then you realize, well, if this is in the game, then that's the only thing I'm ever going to do. So you got to be really careful about that stuff.
Certainly, playing the Huntress now makes me go back and look at the other classes and be like, we need to up that. The level there, and we miss the mark a little bit now because this is better.
As always.
Who's to say the next class won't even be better and make us question even this? But you know,
but that's the way it is with class design.
That's what he says when we like literally when you make a new class, you question everything. He's not understating the level of questioning everything.
Yeah. Do you see like going back to the monk at some point and looking for more like opportunities to link skills together with?
I mean, we haven't got to the full skill set for any class yet already, and we need to add more pieces for a lot.
I think there's at least 4 skills that were designed and enhanced in the monk currently.
Range are the same. There was extra poison skills. It was intended to be more chaos dots. There's all kinds of stuff. We have to obviously at some point fill all that. Hard to say when, but we're going to try and incrementally get it, like much like how Ray Spectre, and I mean the mount works with the Huntress, but we were like, let's give something for the Ranger this time. Let's give something for the Summoners out there this time, and so we're just going to keep filling in those gaps over time.
And it feels like you're getting better at class and skill design as you go too. So I imagine the last class you're going to release is going to be like amazing. You'll look back at the first ones and be like, ooh.
Possibly.
That is the worry. But whatever.
But look, with that means we've got another round of going through everything and improving stuff again, right? So,
and that will never end.
That's it. So with the parry came the kind of looking at the player getting stunned, in particular player heavy stun. So it's always hard to tell players like, hey, we're going to do something to you and it's going to be a bad thing. You're not going to like this.
Well, the funny
thing is, about why.
there's a few things like that actually, because so I mean, for a start, like we needed the downside of parry to be you get stunned out of it. But then when we're looking at how long, like we're like, okay, right now, and it's true with shield block as well, by the way. It's like if you get stunned out of that, the amount of time that you get stunned out for is actually not even enough time for most bosses to do a follow-up attack on you. And it's like, well, where's the downside if it doesn't even have enough time? So we did have to extend that out a little bit, and it makes you a little bit more careful. But in just to warn people, right? There's a few other things like we lowered what's it called, the I can't remember the name of that thing now. The thing that makes you more easy to be elemental statuses apply to you. Ailment threshold. That's right, ailment threshold. Yeah. So we lowered ailment threshold to actually make it so the player has those mechanics happen more to them, right? Because like right now, campaign, like you barely get frozen or burning or shocked, really, to be honest. Yeah. So there's stuff like that we've had to do to kind of make sure that that, because if you don't have that stuff actually happen to you, then there's no point in mitigating it. And it's like things like charms, those mechanics when happening to you. There's stuff like that, right? The downsides do actually matter in order to make it so that that there's other things you can do to sort of bypass those downsides. So yeah, that's kind of one of those things that we just have to make sure is there.
I did always find it a little bit strange that like I was able to count the number of times I was frozen in the campaign on one finger.
For sure. For sure. For sure. But
it's always by those vile ghosts.
Yes.
So expect a little bit more, a little bit more danger from the stun. I definitely died a couple times to getting heavy stun.
Yeah, it can happen.
So that's mostly occurring if you're like doing bad blocking or parrying. But can it also occur just from like taking a really big hit or something?
Nope. At least we've discussed that. We've gone through a whole bunch of different should certain boss abilities heavy stun you, and if you spec into enough stun threshold, it like demotes it to a light stun, and if that, there's all kinds of multi-hour discussions we've had, and we haven't really come to anything conclusive there. But it's only from mount, raise shield, and parry, and of which, at least for all of them, you can see your stagger bar filling up. It's worth noting things like evasion apply to. So when you're parrying, we turn off your evasion from taking damage because the block does, right?
Oh.
And otherwise, you'd be like, I'm going to parry it. Oh, I evaded it. It didn't parry. But you can
That's
evade
going on, man.
So you don't take the damage anyway.
je parie.
Anyone misunderstands that.
The evasion still works.
Yeah.
So high evasion will mean you can parry for longer. There's a bunch of parry stuff on the tree, including damage affecting the debuff, the duration of the debuff, so you get to benefit for it longer. Reducing stagger is all over the place for both mount and so in the dex section of the tree. So yeah, you can mitigate. I mean, my expectation is probably you'll get some in-game builds that are just like, I can parry forever.
Parry forever.
Not every skill can be parried, of course.
It otherwise follows the slam rules. If it's a slam from above or below, you can't parry it. Much to your frustration for some things.
I mean, there are a few things where I've got disagreements about what looks like it's parryable, but...
my hopeful there was when it's contentious, people would bring it up and would change it, right?
Sure.
So, like, if it's on the line, it's meant to be blockable. Like, if it isn't clear. And there was no way with hundreds of monsters and many dozens of bosses that we weren't going to miss some things, so...
So you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but action RPGs kind of naturally pull you towards one damage type, one skill, one specific thing, and optimizing as much as possible, because otherwise you're just making a bad build a lot of the time. But I noticed Huntress has a bit of everything. She's got bleed, she's got all the elements, she's got physical. The only thing she doesn't have is like chaos, but there's kind of poison on the tree right there. So how do you like promote this, like all of this different stuff together? Are you supposed to only kind of be relegated to using 2 or 3 skills, or are these supposed to come together, and how do you manage that?
Well, there's a few things. So one of them is that we provide a lot of combos with the expectation that you'll probably be focusing around like a few specific things rather than necessarily using the whole tree. So like there's that. The other thing as well is just making sure that in the passive tree there's sort of options that go across both. So the Huntress's passive tree has quite a lot of things like extra melee damage if you've done a ranged attack recently, and then it's got bonuses against blinded enemies because while you're in a whirling slash, there's so it's sort of stuff like that where we're trying to carefully think like, well, how can we come up with something that's interesting and buffs everything that you might want to be doing, that kind of synergizes with the stuff that that Huntress can do. But it is honestly hard because like many categories of things only matter for one thing, part of a combo. So it's just like trying to come up with categories that can somehow span all of them in different ways. And ideally we can achieve that, but yeah, it is pretty hard.
Generally, you're going to become more niche or more selective because, again, even mixing elemental and bleed is just probably often going to result
You
in something
probably wouldn't do
suboptimal.
both elemental and bleed. You'd probably
Yeah.
choose one or the other. But that's why we kind of try to make sure that, like, so you've got sort of linkages between them, though, right? Because it's like, for example, the thunderous leap detonates the spears that you do from the bleed thing. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like the idea there is to like it changes how that skill then has a use in the combo with the other one. So even if that skill itself isn't doing a lot of damage, it's triggering something that's taking advantage of all the damage bonuses you got for the for your bleed stuff. So that's kind of like the idea is just to link all that
Well,
stuff.
that's
in a bit so that
intéressant.
you use the non like directly synergistic things in a kind of more synergistic way.
Yeah, that's if you didn't see that from the earlier trailer, it's you spear them with a bunch of spears and then jump on them and explodes them for bleed. Amazing. So, but yeah, that's using an elemental skill like in another way as a detonator. But and even more, you've got weapon swaps as well.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's all those systems we already added about all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, what will be interesting is whether or not we miss something cross-class, right? That's always a concern. Is someone will come up with some way to abuse something, between something that's going on in the spear skills with some other class that we failed to consider.
Yeah, I mean, so that's it. When we look at a new class, we typically like call it like, Huntress is spears, but kind of not really. It's a signature weapon, but
absolutely.
nothing in the Ascendancies prescribes spears.
Exactly. So effectively, we take great pains to make sure that the Ascendancies never mentions weapon types. That they're always generalized. So, for example, the like infusion mechanic in the Amazon, it just says projectiles. It doesn't say spears. And the reason it does that is so that you could make an Amazon who is a bow user, and that's all fine. So like it's effectively like
Open-ended.
It's open-ended, and honestly, like I know that Mark does like. It makes the constraint a lot harder for how to design an Ascendancy class when you have to think about it that way, for sure.
Oh, it'd be much easier to just put a bunch of cool spear stuff in there, but now only really. I mean, it was similar to the original PoE 1 Saboteur, called out traps and mines, and so if you're a trap and mine character, what are you doing? Well, you could do something else, but no one else is playing that thing.
Right.
It isn't. It is easier to design. It is certainly less flexible and open as to what people can play in the different combinations and all that. So yeah.
How much do you have to consider the different weapons and the skills and how they interact together when you're originally designing them, or is there just literally so many possible combinations you're just like, the players will take care of that for us?
I mean, I think it is relatively impossible to come up with everything, but certainly we have to consider, like, is this going to be broken with anything else in particular? And there just has to be certain rules for things about, like, how easy is it to apply this debuff, how easy it is to consume this debuff. And even then, it's like, we often make mistakes and have issues. I mean...
When he says relatively impossible, it is actually impossible.
Actually,
But... I mean,
That's
just,
relative.
but even just looking at the balance pass we're doing at the moment, right? I mean, there's hundreds of things like that, that we still. I mean, there's things that we could never honestly understand all of the different broken things that could possibly exist, and so it's like it really does depend a lot on like on seeing reports on what people are doing on some level, right? But then I think that what will happen over time is obviously, like, the game's still relatively new. We're still making relatively big changes. Over time, the balance, I think, will get to the point where we no longer have these like crazy outliers to the same extent. And it should mean that we get to some sort of relative class parity. By parity, what I mean is, like, people playing all the different classes rather than focusing only on a few as we get towards full release. Because, right now it's obviously very skewed because, there's certain broken things. So, the balance over time, we'll get there.
It's one of the main goals and benefits of the early access is just like, let's get the balance of characters right. And this patch release was always going to have 1,000 problems, or probably 10,000 problems, The next one will have half that, the next one half that, and probably eventually it's going to be down to, like, here's only a few things going, out of whack. There's always going to be something because we add too much content for it to even be controlled. Again, there are too many uniques, too many supports, too many skills, and too many other changes for any amount of people. Like, you're talking about a matter of you'd have to put in like thousands and thousands of hours internally to find it, and then you give it to the players. There's so many people, it's going to take literally 5 minutes. So it is. It's very beneficial. And we're lucky in that regard that we get that level of testing and feedback, and on such a mass level, and especially with things like Ninja and all of that, and other people being able to see it and discuss it more openly, we're just going to be able to iterate on it even faster. But every single patch you're going to see a pretty substantial change in what's going to happen here.
Thanks for making the broken builds. And
well, 100%.
I mean, you mentioned support gems. It's like over 100 support gems added just this patch.
Yeah.
It's already like so many, and with you doing a different weapon for each of the 16 classes.
Yeah, I
and
mean, there's going to be a lot
16
by the time we're
weapons,
done. But there kind of has to be, right? Because
that's what you made it. You made this system that you need so many supports to support.
You
Because
do.
otherwise, it's not going to work. Like,
Yeah.
especially with this
Yeah,
one support
well,
system,
this
it's
mud
like,
sport gym, man.
you guys done.
Well, I mean, look, this is why we have recommendations, and hopefully we can improve those as well, and continue to get that better.
There's certainly room for the complexity to get a little bit out of control here. So the recommendeds are going to become more and more important.
Right.
So we need to make sure those are very much right.
For sure.
You must be looking to players even to find some of those recommendations down the line as well.
In some
like
cases.
What stuff is popularly getting
But
used.
the thing with the recommendations, though, is that they can't really take into account what you've already got on the gem. So the recommendations have to be just sort of generally good, but not really take into account combos. That kind of means they're a bit more simple. Like the recommendations are going to be more simple than what you'd otherwise be doing if you're following them.
Feels like at some point you need some sort of nested recommendation system. It's like, well, I'm kind of doing bleed stuff, so you go to the sub menu for bleed recommendations.
I'm less certain about that because I kind of don't want to get into the thing of actually telling you what your build should be. That's a little different there.
Maybe like more sorting methods for the show me all the gems. Oh. Because there's a lot that are only in there that are never recommended, right? At this point,
there are, yes, there are.
It's going to be an interesting challenge you guys have set yourselves to make enough supports there.
Autant de sport demander, c'est
A challenge you set yourselves.
la merde fouillée dedans.
Why did you do this to yourselves? Was specters. So originally those were planned to be in for launch, but obviously specters are a whole can of worms. It's hey, let's just give players access to every monster. Also, we've made so many new monsters.
Yeah.
We're talking about all the broken. There's going to be some broken in there, I promise you. And there's going to be some stuff we have to change. I
mean, they've done, but I mean, effectively, what the time between early access and this was like, okay, let's actually attempt at least to do a balance pass of this and like see if there's anything that's going to be a problem and then adjust numbers.
Yeah, but now you've got to count all those support gems on all those monsters.
Yes, well, this is an interesting thing, isn't it? The support gems work. The support gems work on them, and like, what the hell is that going to do? Like it's impossible to completely know. But yeah, like, look, I mean, there's probably definitely some dark secrets lying in what kind of spectre mixed with support gems are going to do.
And monsters have skills now. It's not like PoE1 where it's like
les spectres vont fucked up en maudit, man.
Everything pretty much has a skill now at this point. So,
but the great thing about it is we got to leverage all that work again for the beast taming as well. So and of course the difference there is that you also get the mods from the thing that you tamed. So that's going to be
auras, ground effects.
Yeah, exactly.
On death explosions.
No, you've got a whole nother ruckus of potential interactions. So we'll see what happens there.
We've done nice specific player versions of those things for which specifically when you tame the beast, so that they're not sitting there spamming skills in your hideout and all of that.
Good. Yeah. Yes.
But also, like, there actually are player versions of the mods that Res can get, like, so that we can balance them if we need to.
Yeah.
Because some of that stuff would be ridiculous if you had it yourself. So basically, we still have it sort of work. It mostly works the same way, but there will just be numbers tweaked to the player versions, and the same works as well for the what do you call it? The ritual sacrifice. Headhunter and stuff like that. So player versions of the monster mods for that.
Yeah, this new attention to these things is going to benefit like the pre-existing stuff like Headhunter and that as well. Yeah, that's insane.
There's a new.
Baisser la balancer.
There's a new unique charm that possesses you with a random Asmeri spirit as well, and so you get the demons and the stats, and those technically also have player versions too. But actually, not to necessarily make things worse, to make things better, because monsters are balanced to fight player life and monster life, not in the same universe. So actually what we've done is all the things you steal that are monsters and the monster skills, like the explosions and the summoning bears and all that, we've actually specifically balanced them way up to be more effective against monster. So when you steal them, they're much more powerful actually. So they're not just tickling monsters and doing 1% of their life.
Tickling.
It was mentioned in chat actually, the whole like Asmeri modifiers and things on stuff that wouldn't transfer over with the companion system, surely.
No.
That would be a little bit too far, perhaps a bit unhinged.
We actually had to, because this is certainly a benefit. Once you have tamed the beast, it is not tradable. And people might
Oh.
immediately be like, oh, so that's sad. Well, the issue is, and as much as you might want some of that, I'm sure you don't want to be carrying around a whole bunch of tame beasts in your inventory all the time. So that every
Yeah.
single time you find a good rare,
Yeah.
all of a sudden you have to go and...
Because
Oh,
it would mean that
flame
finding
it.
a
Oh
rare would
God,
become a thing.
yes.
Yes, exactly.
It's actually
didn't
like
even
this
think about that.
annoying, in
Yeah.
order to make the most money, I have to be constantly thinking
Yeah.
about and carrying around tame
But then we
beasts
also
and-
made it so that as soon as you activate a beast, then no one who comes into the instance after
Yeah,
that
so
is allowed to
so you
tame it.
can't do
So
any,
you
like-
can't TFT the
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh.
It's like a whole there's like a lot of thinking
Oh
about
my
that
God.
stuff in
Nice.
order to make it so that
It's
No,
a sad thing to
yeah,
have
yeah.
to have lost, but
Yeah,
it
yeah.
is like, yeah,
Yeah.
no, I'm not.
yeah.
I'm not signing up
I
for
didn't
that.
even think about that.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
oh, the like needing for cheat sheets and
Yeah,
guides
exactly,
and stuff.
right?
Like,
And so
which
you have to be
beats are
really
worth the
careful.
work?
You have to be
Some
so
currency
careful.
this week.
And then the thing is like it's like we design this thing and then think, oh, trading beasts is going to be fun, but then you realize that the horrific reality
Actually,
of what it will turn into. It's like, yeah, okay,
Oh,
well,
no.
Yep.
but yeah,
Nope.
at least we're thinking about that kind of thing, like with more experience that we have now early,
Mhm.
so that we don't
We've
sort
been
of run
down
into
that
those
road
problems.
before.
Exactly.
Yes, we have.
Yeah.
I'm glad we've learned from past issues with that sort of trading.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So, talking about some of the other new
Oh,
skills.
my
we
lord,
had
a little
addition
shit
of a
trading is
grower,
trouble,
which
eh?
was a teased quite some time ago, I think.
Yes.
But you've got it in and working now, and it looks
Yes.
like it's moving around pretty good.
Yes.
and
Yes.
it's obviously you've got like a big downside. If you get knocked off at heavy
Mhm.
stun and stuff, you can't use melee from it, so it's for ranged attacks.
Yeah.
But it does seem like one of those things that it's going to be like everyone's going to use or no one's going to use because it's a clear speed machine.
It is a concern. I mean, look, my ideal situation is that you're using it sometimes and not using it other times. Like, if you're using it like during clear, I think it will, like you will definitely want to. But we want to just make sure that we've got like sort of fun things like that. And like it's just a cool fantasy. Like there's stuff like that that I just want to get in. And it's like look, it
60
doesn't
de
work
spirit,
like
c'est
FF
mauvais
and
pour
that,
certaines
I mean, sure, I
personnes, hein.
suppose, but like I want something like that to exist. We believe that it is balanced as much as we can. As much as we can.
You sound very convinced.
Yeah,
Yes.
yes, it's balanced. It's balanced. It's balanced.
Well, as I said earlier,
yeah.
you can probably
Yeah.
get builds that get to the point of parrying indefinitely. So you can. That means in theory
Yeah.
you can probably get to the point of riding
Sure.
a rower indefinitely.
Sure,
right?
sure.
Again, enough evasion and enough
Yep.
stagger speaking
yeah.
into and all of that.
Yeah.
Fundamental question, actually. Like, what's its move speed based on? Its own move speed?
The move speed is just your move speed. Like
Oh, it's got-
but it's
but
what
without the
you're,
penalty.
but what you don't get is the penalty for when you
Of
attack.
course.
Yeah.
That's the
Oh.
that's
Yeah,
the
that-
thing. But it's funny though because like even though it doesn't have a move speed bonus, it feels like you're motoring when you're using it just because of the fact you don't get that downside
Yeah.
anymore. Like you feel like you're the fastest thing on the planet.
It is.
When you're doing
There are
using it.
other like more mechanical benefits, like it's considered a companion, which is a kind of subclass of minion that we've added, where you can only have one of each one companion
Subclass
beast
of
as a keystone
minion.
for another, but you can only have one of each type. So like you can have a tame beast and a rower with the keystone,
Oh, right, yeah.
but inherently you can only have one companion.
Right, so you can't use a tamed beast if you're using the road.
And then there are heaps
Uh-huh.
of passives for like if you have a companion, like companions while they're in your presence and all that kind of stuff. Heaps of that stuff around the bottom of the tree.
Yeah, I saw you guys remade the minion damage, is player damage node on the tree. It's you companion damage nodes become player damage nodes. I was like, oh, that looks like
yes,
I'm going
that
to take
too.
that.
Well, so that's the like companion where it's like more the mercenary over to ranger huntress is more like you want your one powerful minion and benefiting that benefits you and you benefit it and there's that like,
Yeah.
synergy between you and your companions.
So since it is a companion, I like the idea of like balance wise. Maybe it ends up being that you're like map clearing on roll back, and then you get to the boss and you dismount like old school mounted knights who charge in battle and then dismount and fight.
Yep.
So if it ends up like that, that seems like that would be a
I
pretty
think
cool
that
balance
should
for
be,
it.
that should be the best way to use it, I believe.
Yeah, because then you gain
Um,
access to your dodge roll for
Yeah,
the boss fight
exactly.
where you need it.
Yeah.
And does the rower then kind of do a bit when you're not on
It can attack, but I mean, it's not exactly a huge damage source or anything.
It's
like
certainly better to
yeah.
stay at ranged. It's not the most durable of birds. For sure.
But it acts as a
That
distraction.
was
Yeah,
terrible
it's a
of
minion,
both.
right? Like
You can do
it attacks
things with.
things and does stuff.
Yeah, you can support it with minion supports to make it more durable and all of that. So
Yeah. Oh, I mean, there's the one that's like the minion takes 10% of the damage before you do. So sacrificial bird.
Yeah.
Little guy.
Wow.
So that sounds. I'm looking forward to playing around with that one then. speaking of new content, 100 new uniques this time.
Mhm.
So how many are you aiming for? Kind of in general, is this about really like filling that roster
Well,
out?
we want to have every base type have a unique for the purposes of chance.
Outside of boss uniques.
Outside of boss uniques, we want every
on
base
top
type to have a unique
Outside
for
of
using
boss
chance.
unique. Uh-huh.
And so
Yes,
that
okay.
was with the eventual goal. One of the things, of course, that we had that was sort of a problem in early access is that because of the way, because when we were designing uniques, we kind of designed them like in order from base type up, just literally because that's the way that like spreadsheets are arranged. It's like we ended up with all the low level uniques
enough,
first,
fair
kind of
enough, yeah.
before the high ones, and it was kind of it's like we didn't see that mistake coming. Like it was kind of stupid
We
because
thought,
like
we thought we'd get
we
through
thought
way
we'd get through
more
them all,
of
right? We were like,
so-
okay, we'll get all the uniques, and so we designed them all. It's like, okay, we'll start working on the art, just go down the list. So then we're like, oh crap, now we don't have very many in-game uniques. So this time we're like, okay, we really need to make sure that in-game uniques are a thing. There's way more of them. So the focus really is on making sure there's lots of cool stuff to find. Lots of really chase things that you can get. It's
Bah oui.
So you discovered the sort order.
Juste des uniques qui sont bons au début, c'est pas bon, là.
So effectively, like you should. This it should be a lot better, and like there's lots of cool stuff there.
And we're just going to keep going with that,
yeah,
by the way.
of
Like,
course. Yeah.
100 now, 100 later, 100 next. Just keep going
Right.
kind of, honestly, we never really stop making uniques. Like,
Yeah.
especially anyone familiar with Path of Exile 1's history, is every single expansion since the dawn of time has had new uniques added to it. So, there's, a lot there, and there's going to be a lot here eventually as well. So, yeah.
So then let's talk about the idea of like players seeing a unique and be like, 1x, that's not very good. What do you guys want uniques to be in Path of Exile 2? Like, how powerful should they be? What should they be aiming to do? And how should they affect the rares in that slot?
I mean, there's always a tension because we want rares to still matter. Like, we don't want your character to be just only full of uniques. So it really is like the role can evolve. So at the start of the game, they're really supposed to be more about that. So the earlier game uniques are supposed to do two things. One of them is when you find them, they should be powerful for a little while.
Yeah.
But then also they have some kind of combo thing that you might be able to do with them at in-game. But we don't always know exactly what that
Ouais,
might
parce
be.
qu'un unique qui est juste bon pour le début, après tu
we
t'en
don't necessarily
débarrasses,
design
là.
to say, okay, this unique definitely has like an in-game build that's going to be actually strong to do with it, and that's because you're kind of putting in things where later on some other mechanic might come along or something might happen, and then people find an interesting interaction, and that's when the unique kind of comes into its own. And I mean, that's the same as like Magic card design philosophy, that kind of stuff. You just put in like kind of weird stuff and sort of maybe you find something. But obviously, it can mean that like when people see a new unique, they might they dismiss it. But then one day they might also be paying vast amounts for it if it becomes a meta build. So,
L'unique est rendu hyper
I feel
bon.
like a game has to have that stuff in it in order to feel like there's lots of interesting ways to experiment, because like it's like the feeling of being the first person to discover some new interaction is an amazing thing, and then when people see something that like feels smart, and it's like if we don't have uniques that just take chances and do weird shit, we'll never have that kind of stuff happen.
Yeah.
So
when we're designing a unique, we don't think about what's the value going to be.
Yeah.
We're not even coming out of it going like, this is going to be really expensive, or this is going to be really cheap.
Well,
Like,
some
Yeah,
That's-
faut pas penser à ça en
you
premier,
knew
hein.
what you were doing with that Herald unique.
nah, it's more of the charm and but that's the thing. Are you aiming for the? Honestly, there's someone said the other day they were like, it's a successful unique is
Ah.
divisive, and I was like, I agree for the most part, but not every unique should fill that role. Some should just be clearly, this is powerful, I want it for sure. It is going to be on my build.
Chase.
And others are like, what can I do with this now? And then others are just like, we don't know if anyone's going to do anything with this. Throw it in. And sometimes it doesn't get anything happen with it for 3 years. But we don't know that.
Ouais, ça, c'est vrai.
Let's just take an experiment and throw it in there and let the players figure that out.
Yeah,
Faut
I
pas
feel
oublier, dans
like
Path of Exile 1 et
all these
États-Unis,
design
ils ont jamais servi à rien, puis
like,
oh,
I'm gonna put
comment ça sert à quelque chose?
that's a little weird. Maybe someone will figure that out.
Well, I think as Rishi called it, it's a puzzle piece, right?
Yeah.
It's just a piece in the puzzle. You put it there, and maybe someone will complete the puzzle or half of it. Maybe not. And then others where it's just like, yeah, this is powerful.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
have it.
there are definitely some chase uniques in this. In this.
Yeah,
situation.
100%.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
So on chase uniques, then we've obviously had some like pretty crazy ones so far. Where do they want to be in terms of like how hard they are to get for players? Because at that point, you do need to consider like how
So
expensive they end up being.
it's really tricky. So whenever we're looking, so if there's a unique that's broken, I guess there's two responses, right? One of them is make it rare enough that you only get the brokenness after the point when you're at the point where you're supposed to get that, right?
Yeah.
Which is to say, like, you know, post pinnacle boss type,
You win.
like a level of character
Yes.
development, right? And then the other response would be nerf the actual unique, and it honestly is case by case. Like, you know,
Nerfer, c'est pas tellement le meilleur des affaires.
Like Temporalis, for example, actually got nerfed in both ways. The actual unique was nerfed a little bit, I believe, although I don't believe it's maybe as much as what players might expect. But then also you've got okay, whatever. But also we have made that one rarer.
It's still pretty crazy.
Oh, it's still
right
crazy for sure. But the thing is like you want to chase stuff, right? So therefore you don't want to just go nerfing everything into the ground the moment that it's good. Therefore that one becoming rarer, I think, was the right answer there, because it was way too common. Just due to the
We had also the issues with I mean, there were three real issues. One is darkness at one point bypassed honor loss. So all of a sudden a no-hit run.
La lead est intéressante, man.
You had guard bypass honor loss. So once again, a no-hit run's not a no-hit run. And then there was just like, well, how can anything hit you if you can kill literally everything on your screen in one frame, right? So those three problems. And so as the balance issue of not everything surviving for more than one frame due to a subset of builds, and those other two things go away, it becomes a lot rarer in itself. That it is much harder to acquire, require like very specific and ideally high skill gameplay. And then there's just like, well, it also was just too common, the relic that yielded it.
I mean, the expectation was that, because this is a hard challenge, most of the time when people try, they will fail. But the reality is, once you get the ability to do it, you just trade for that thing and get it every time. So that's kind of meant that the rarity kind of didn't work like we thought, and now that should be better in both ways.
Again, for the PoE 1 players comparison, like it was far more common than Original Sin, which was the same role in PoE 1's version of the Sanctum, just to give us some sort of comparison.
It's just much easier to actually reliably do it.
And it shouldn't have been that much more common.
Right.
Yeah, gotcha. So crafting really surprised me. You guys announced, I thought we'd maybe get like one little thing, maybe you'd do something with essences or something, but we've got essences coming out a lot more, it looks like. You've got, because you're violent, you can
greater essences are going to be much easier to get. One thing we didn't mention in the video is that like omens are way more common, because I believe you made a change to this every
2.5 times more common, I think.
Than every thing. So like you've got stuff like that. Like we certainly knew that we needed to do more with what crafting stuff, and so we're kind of like, well, let's just make sure we're at least adding 3 or 4 things, like new things to.
Every ritual will now have at least one omen in the window.
Amazing.
So you can know
c'est bon ça?
What is the omen I'm going to get, and hope it's a good one, and
love it.
maybe most often it's not, but
But yeah, the greater essences, obviously, the Varlorb thing makes it much more common. There's more sources of them with the map and everything like that, so that'll be happening more. And then of course there's the improvements to things like the runes. We've got higher level mods that you can get from them. There's like a ton more runes. There's like we just wanted to expand.
Les runes, ça va être bon, là.
Kind of like the niche mods that you can get and craft on things, like it just needed more options. And it's sort of interesting because like some people say, oh, you don't have crafting in PoE 2 because we don't have a crafting bench, but it's like we actually have a huge number of crafting options, and the crafting being good kind of comes down to like how many of these kind of weird systems are there and how they can interact. But we just have to be really careful because you don't want to get to the point where ground items no longer matter. Like and I think PoE 1 kind of basically did that
qu'ils
for
veulent, là.
reasons, where like people aren't caring about what's on the ground nearly as much. So we still want to make sure with every change we're making that they still use the ground stuff, that you're still excited for things on the ground, and so that's like a really careful balancing act, because they do directly contravene.
Faut juste s'arranger que les affaires à terre, tu sois capable de les crafter comme du monde, au moins. Faut juste mettre un exalted, un regarde, un élément, comme c'est bâtard.
Things that you can do to kind of improve your stuff.
Yeah, well, I think you've done right, and what you're doing is making sure that the ground items do matter with each of these crafting systems. So you had that fundamental change where you can't just turn an item back into a white item.
Exactly, and that's very important. One of the biggest ones, I think, and that kind of then unlocks the ability to do more. And so the great thing about the socketables as a crafting system is that they don't compromise the ground at all, because they don't, they're on top of the stuff that you can get on the ground. So that's very good. But when it comes to the kind of the base mods, we do want to retain, like, you know, that an item has. We do want to retain, for the most part, the kind of thing of like that part of the item generation is random. It's just that, it's just that on top of that, you get the more deterministic things that you can add in addition to. And then when you do it that way, it works really well. So socketables work really well as a crafting system for that reason.
Well, so on that topic, we've had this talking to you. It's like you're always saying to me that like this rune system is our crafting bench, but
Yes.
players don't keep asking for a bench anyway.
Right.
So obviously there's like a branding issue or a functionality
100%. So
gap.
it is funny because I was actually saying the other day that like if we had literally had that system be identical, except that the way it was themed was that there's a crafting bench you go to and craft extra mods on the items, like which literally be functionally the same, I think, and required materials that are effectively the runes that you get. Like then I feel like people would be thinking that we've got a crafting bench. But yeah, ultimately that is that the rune system, the socketables are what replaced the crafting bench.
On n'est pas chez les secretables pour faire
I guess
la bonne
possibly
job, là.
like with that initial kind of output of them was there's not as many options as
100%
what you
as well.
had.
So that is
Yeah.
extra, and that's because they were relatively late in development. So now we're just sort of expanding that, and we'll continue to add more socketables probably with every release,
good.
right? Like
Vous allez avoir
like
des,
categories
plus de
of them or
sockets,
different
plus
things.
d'affaires
It's like it's
intéressantes.
expanding the kind of type of mods.
And
Because
shit.
there is a thing where it's the more like in the base mod pool for items, there can only be things that are really fundamental, and so anything that's kind of out there, we don't want to put in the base mod pool because then you end up with this sort of situation where you get items that got random shit you don't care about. Like the crafting is where you want to have all of the kind of stuff that's like very build specific.
Yeah.
And so adding more mods to that pool so that you can do that is the right idea.
Why is it that you can't socket and rune some things, like non-attack weapons, for example?
Well,
It was more just a choice for asymmetry where we just wanted
Yeah.
these things to feel different. There was also just like a little bit of a like, in the future, we'll add some system where we can do something else there. And, so just not having everything be completely identical. Like, much like how, you know, the quality on those weapons works differently, where it affects the skill as opposed to just, you know, base damage.
I do think it is something that we should be probably looking into sooner rather than later, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the asymmetry things, it's good to have like not everything be super homogeneous, but because we're talking about the importance of it being that extra layer of control over your items, which you just don't have if you're doing spellcaster.
Oh, maybe we'll add an Arcanist's bench and theme it that way for those
Okay,
ones.
all right. You forced my hand. I have to bring this up now. Can we get some sort of like cohesive, all-in-one bench for disenchanting, salvaging, selling for gold, Arcanist benching at endgame? I get in the campaign having these things be separate, but I like at endgame, it's so much clicky.
You're not
busy
happy
work.
enough with them just being next to each other, putting them next to each other, and you know.
No.
Well, that's all right, I'll think about that one.
Okay, good. I've planted the seeds at least.
Yeah. Okay.
Done my part.
Right.
There's ways.
Max.
Yeah.
I like the sounds of that.
Well, at least for endgame. Like,
Yeah, that's
I,
what
I do.
figured, yeah.
I don't want the world to not feel like it makes sense.
Absolutely.
So,
But
Having it
but
that you can just,
endgame,
like-
you've got your hideout where they're all
It would
like-
have to be a hideout related thing.
yeah.
That makes sense. I mean, people putting their NPCs within each other's personal space anyway, so
Yeah.
the law goes out the window at that
Yeah,
point.
for sure.
So we've also got Fractured, crafted via an orb from the
Uh-huh.
cleansed monsters. How rare are those?
How do you quantify rarity like that? They drop from the monsters. I can't remember the exact number, but like I think I was kind of saying like one per biome, which is the kind of total blob of cleansed monsters. But then that obviously does get affected by things like pack size and all that on top of that.
One by bio.
5 maps or something?
Well, it depends on how many of them you kill as corrupted.
What?
Yeah.
'Cause, like,
C'est
because
donc
the
ben
ones you
fucké, Chris.
that you didn't
C'est une baille de
cleanse
2.0, ça.
while you were getting to the nexus. Those are the ones that then become cleansed. So you kind of have to choose, like when you go into a biome, am I going to beeline straight for the nexus and then cleanse everything, or am I going
Fucking
to
hell,
fight
man.
corrupted to get the rewards from that? So you're kind of choosing one reward or the other based on what you decide to run.
Okay, so you can kind of leave the Nexus for last if you want to
Yes, if you want to
use it to try and get more fractured orbs.
Well, you
it's the other way around.
way
So
around,
do
yeah.
Nexus first, then it cleanses all the maps,
Oh.
and then now you can get the most chance at
Yeah.
fractured orbs, or you can fight them corrupted before going to the Nexus if you want to get the rewards that the corrupted maps have.
And we have like
Ah.
for example, the corrupted bosses have their own uniques now.
Yeah, so you're gonna want that's
There's a bunch of
wanting
new
those.
modifiers and
Yeah.
how they, so there's like
Yeah, yeah.
random corrupted strongbox kind of things and all of that stuff. So
Clever.
you kind of really are like, I'm gonna have a look at the mods.
right.
I like
Are
this. I'm gonna
there-
do this, then this, then this, then the Nexus, and then I'm gonna do the rest cleansed.
Does the cleansed boss have its own uniques as well?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
It does have.
Ah, faut que tu cleanses en premier
it
pour
guarantees a
faire les autres
friction roll as
affaires.
well.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
So you can
and-
get the yes, the boss.
So and you'll display if
Faut
you
que tu
hover
prennes
over
le
the
pad
map,
qui
it
est genre
says,
le
like,
plus
contains- I can't
efficient
remember his
pour
name.
la
And then you run it
cleanser.
and kill it, you will get a fractured orb. So at least you will
yeah.
know that will drop one.
Yeah, yeah.
So, with the fractured orbs being a way of fracturing, that's obviously super powerful for crafting. Are there any fractured items dropping pre-fractured? I quite liked that.
I think we went with no in the end.
Yeah,
we
not
were going to do
currently.
it, but then we decided not to. But we might do it later.
Yeah.
Yeah, so an extra add-on. Is there a particular reason for it or thought process for that?
There just kind of wasn't anything that really fit that exactly. I think.
At some point, you'll
Non,
want
des fractures items qui doivent
Yeah,
split, c'est bien plus intéressant que le
Personally,
monde
I
les
would rather
fasse.
just drop more orbs.
Parce que le
Honestly,
monde
let
les
people
fasse, c'est plus
choose
cher.
how they want to use them.
I like it from the perspective of dropped items matter. Like when you're
Yeah,
seeing
but
a rare,
they kind
and
of
then
already
you're like,
do.
"Ooh."
They kind of do here anyway because
they do,
like
because
you
you
need that
yeah.
as the thing of the fracture.
makes
So it's
sense.
kind of not necessary. I think. Yeah.
There's other little subtle things, like for example, the cleansed monsters within cleansed maps can't drop equipment as a little thing. So they have much higher. Obviously, they're dropping things more like waystones, tablets, currency. They don't get to drop any of the armor or anything. So they're more like currency sources. Is like an interesting
Yeah,
subtle thing.
if you want more currency, then play cleansed maps.
Uh-huh.
So we're gonna have a lot more essences, a lot more omens, potentially ability to get fractured, recombination with the new, more accessible at low and mid tier
Design
recombination.
4.0. Yeah.
This is yes, recombination's certainly undergone some changes. This is a huge, huge leap forwards compared to 0.1's crafting.
For sure.
So was it just about that you had to establish that really like humble baseline for crafting, so that you could then go crazy with it like this?
Honestly, I mean, look, on some level, it can just be, like you need an economy. You need to see how things evolve. We just don't want to do too much at once. I mean, although this may seem like quite a lot. I mean,
It does, yeah.
but the thing is like, but in terms of the
Ça se
the
peut que les fractures items vont ça va être mon gueule parce que tu peux les crafter comme un malade.
It is hard to take this stuff away, so that's why we have to be a little bit careful as we do this.
Yeah, I guess you needed to kind of assess the fundamental things like the no scours, the no
100%,
bolts, and stuff like
100%.
that as well, because then you can have a better idea of how to build off that, which I'm super excited for. Crafting.
But
Yeah,
of course, and if
actual
you know
crafting.
us, like more, there'll be more. There's always going to be more.
Oh yeah.
So.
Oh, you gotta have a new craft for every league, right? That's how it is these days.
Oh yes.
I expect a crafting system for every league. Thank
Yep.
you.
Something like that.
That's somewhat actually our intention. So
Yeah.
I love it. Love it. Perfect. So let's talk about Endgame then, because that had some humble origins as well with the initial implementation of PoE2's Endgame. Obviously trying some new things, being a bit experimental, not necessarily just wanting to copy PoE1's Endgame. But how far of your vision was 0.1's Endgame? Was it what you want?
I would say that the main problem that we had is there wasn't enough overlapping axes of randomness, as we call them, where effectively you need to have it so that when you go into a map, there's just chances for random shit occurring, and then
Random
that
shit
random
occurring.
like might happen alongside some other random shit, and then now the thing together is like a new scenario. So I mean, effectively,
Random
like
shit squared.
yeah, exactly, right. So let's like if you look at what we actually added here in terms of like encounters, if you will, whatever that means to you, like we've added kind of more than 40, probably something
Intéressant.
approaching 50 encounters, and that's if you count things like each rogue exile is a separate one, and each spirit's a different one, and things like that, right? So those are the things. But the big difference between the ones we had before and the ones we have now is that most of these ones can overlap with other things. So you have a situation where you've got the Asmeri Wisp that like happens to infect the unique boss of the area, and then that leads to a combat situation that you haven't had to deal with before, or then like you've got some essence thing that like or like oh crap that like this other wisp like caused the thing to turn into a boss that then it's just like it's all that stuff combining, or like what happens when this goes with a with a unique strongbox, and it's like all that combining stuff, and that's what leads to the situation where you've got an exponential explosion of like possible combat situations, and then sometimes you just run into stuff that you've never seen before because of that, because of this combined in some interesting way. And that's something that definitely PoE1 has got very well, because it's got so many of these things that have been added over time. And it's also something that we took care to make sure that each league specifically did. So what PoE2 lacked was, I think, that. And so that will mean, I think, that the end game is overall just much more engaging. Now, obviously, we're going to be adding more content and more of the other stuff, but fundamentally, it's like it was specifically more of that type of stuff that we needed to do. And honestly, I don't think we've even got enough yet. Like, we want even more. We'll keep on adding that stuff, but
Bon.
it needed to
Denis,
become a
moi, j'aurais
focus.
devoir y aller.
I think part of the reason is that
Pas
like, when
aussi
you're-
grosse
like,
annonce
when we're
que je
first
pensais
working
que ça
on the
allait
right?
être.
It's like we need to come up with the big ticket items, right? Like what are the
Yeah.
the legal things, and,
Mais
like the maps, and we
still.
need to come up with all that stuff. And so it's the little detaily kind of things.
Il y a
that
quand même
kind of,
un masse
require a bit
d'affaires, là.
more, like time
Là.
and stuff to work on. Even though they're actually
Ça va
like,
quand même un masse durée
relatively
pour
efficient to make. Like we can
qu'elle
make a
a
lot of
6
them when we do
poches,
actually
je
sit down and
suppose.
design them, because they're like making
Yeah.
a new strongbox.
Oh.
Like, sure, it's like it's work, but it doesn't take like
On va
that
voir.
long, if you know what I mean. But it is. But it is that stuff
Moi,
that
on
really
s'en
adds a
verra
lot of
plus tard
flavor
dans la
and kind of
soirée.
interest.
Moi, je
We'll
reviens.
just be continuing to do that through the game. And I mean, even
On va
yesterday,
continuer
we
de
had a conversation about,
regarder
like, making it so more of the
le
maps, even just, like,
Q&A
regular
pour
maps, have more
Twitch.tv
interesting just little things
Pat
that
avait
happen
dit.
in them and
Yeah,
stuff like
man.
that. Like
G,
more
là.
like what the campaign has.
Love that.
So we haven't like got there yet, but like as through early access, we'll
Ça
definitely
vaut,
be just like
ça vaut
introducing
quand même la
more
peine, là.
of those little details everywhere. So
Et
that you
sur
get
ça,
the-
moi, je vais y aller.
Yeah, so
Top.